Hello, guys, and welcome to Dice and Design. And as you can see, today I'm not joined by Tyler. He should join a little bit later on. He has just been delayed, unfortunately. So hopefully he's going to join us soon. But in the meantime, I can say hi to everybody in chat, and we can start the show. Today the topic was about vehicular combat, and we plan on doing a more like a conversational show where we kind of brainstorm idea about how to make vehicular combat interesting, because this is something that is very poorly done in role playing game, and maybe it's not meant to be to feature so prominently in role playing game, but a lot of people like to play those sci-fi game where it's expected that you're gonna have ship combat. A lot of people are like to do those like sometimes pirate game where it's gonna have like naval ship and spaceship. And even if you play in modern game where you should have car chase, and those should be exciting moment of action, but unfortunately it's very rare that in the show that you do feel like in the action in the game that you do feel the speed, that you do feel the excitement. So a few problems are common with vehicular combat. Oftentimes, you're gonna have people stuck in a role, and then it's gonna become like, oh, you're the gunner, you're the captain, you're the navigation, and then every round of action is gonna become very same. It's gonna become very repetitive. Oftentimes, you don't have choice. You don't have real choice, because if you're stuck in a role, what you're gonna do every round. If you're the gunner, well, you're gonna shoot. You can choose what you're shooting at, but basically what you're doing, your action is gonna be shooting at something. If you're the captain, you're gonna give some order. If you're the navigation guy, you're gonna scan around. This can get like very boring very fast. Oftentimes, even when you have like games that to be lighter on the mechanic side, if they include vehicle combat, it often going to become very clunky all of a sudden. All of a sudden, like the complexity has to be added. A lot of complexity is added. Rex still say to L, D&D does have rules for vehicle though. Example are wagon, cart, various water vessel, even animal or burden count as vehicle according to the rules. Yeah, that's what L's saying. Like D&D doesn't have a vehicle. Spelljammers in D&D, it's Star Trek. I might skip this one. Seem more like a BattleTech or Coriolis. And of course, like we're not only talking about D&D when we talk about here. We talk about here. We talk about role playing game in general. And like Rex still say, you do have vehicle in D&D as well. Um, Hello, crafting gamer. Nice seeing you. And hello, Rex Steel. Nice seeing you. Another problem that often arises if you have idea, if you have input about how you do like your vehicle combat, how you make it interesting in your game, feel free to share it in the chat there. Another common problem that arises with vehicle combat is when the whole party is in a single vehicle, they are tied together. So now, not only like maybe they're gonna fill a role, but then also they don't have like the freedom of movement that you usually have in role playing game. They're sitting at their chair and they're following the chain of command, which is also another problem. Hello, Crapful. Nice seeing you. So one thing that and one question that often arises, like that I often ask myself when it comes to vehicle combat, can you do it just theater of the mind? We talked. I talked on stream during this week about how when you play online, I prefer playing with a theater of the mind, because otherwise, like the virtual tabletop often slow down thing too much, and it require you to prep thing, especially if the more complex and the more detail, You get your VDT, you have to prep thing, and then it kind of like force you to reroll the player so they can see what you've prepped, create like those set piece that you want to use. And when it comes to vehicle combat, oftentimes like it seemed to be either you're gonna wave off like end wave a lot of things, or you have to bring out some kind of like visual support, a battle map, miniature, and stuff like that. And I'm wondering, like, are we? It's the same problem that we see when people try to include guns in games. I don't know why, but all of a sudden, when we include something that maybe we're more familiar with, now we become like all detail oriented, and we want it to become very realistic. You know, people like now we start talking about guns, and people start talking about rate of fire and precision and the difference between this one, and damage. You know, and the same thing often happen with vehicle combat. Now we want it to be, oh, is the vehicle faster than this one, or should I calculate like the how much control, how much can it stick to the road when I take this hard curve, stuff like that. And that's why we have to vehicle combat is supposed something to be fast. It's supposed to be like high octane, like you have the speed, you want to play like the Mad Max and stuff like that. But now we get bogged down into the rules and you try to figure out and to make like have different vehicle perform differently and stuff like that. And because of that, something that is supposed to be very fast, something that is supposed to act to be like very high pace, become very very slow. Hello Charlotte, nice seeing you. Rex still say, I feel like you need to view vehicular combat more abstractly. I think that might be the solution. We're gonna talk about that. Hopefully Tyler is gonna join soon. He got caught. He got like held somewhere. Chase rules from Call of Cthulhu seems like a decent abstraction, but I haven't played them because there's always like in the chase, if I remember correctly, in the chase rule of Call of Cthulhu, it just like calculate if you're getting away or getting closer. But there's also very few interaction and because the one thing that I really dislike when you do those chase rules is like, are you gonna make me have a series of drive tests one after the other? Can I try to do something else? Can I try to use some tactic and stuff like that? So there's this question of that. Crapphone say, pull up your copy of Car Wars. But that's the thing. Car Wars, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, every round takes a long time. No, it doesn't have the feeling of it doesn't feel like fast pace. It doesn't feel like high excitement. No, I never played Car War, but that's from what I heard and from what I've seen, that Charlotte say did the vehicle combat well, but isn't it like every turn you have a bunch of things to calculate, and then something that should be fast becomes slow? If I recall, in Wars, you can accelerate from like 0 to 60 fire machine gun and eat half a sandwich in one turn. But how long does your turn takes? That's the question that because like that's the thing, that's a big disconnect there. If you are on the mindset of your character and stuff like that, and something, and if the time dilation become too big, I think that's a problem in car chases. Charlotte said, I think if you put a bunch of weapon on your car, it meant more attack rolls. Yeah. The Car Wars crack was a weak attempt. Oh, No, but that's something. No, because that's something that I had in my that I want to talk about. That's an example of thing I think that doesn't work in a role playing game. And also, I don't know why you're trying to make like a. I don't know what you're trying to make. You could make like a some kind of like war game, fighting game, maybe. But like if you try to present it as something that is high speed, making it to making it a system that is very slow uh, is a is not a good idea. Hello, Black Lodge Game. Thank you for dropping by. Rex still say no offense to anyone here, but maybe people are overthinking the realism of game mechanics. Instead of trying to make the mechanics more realistic, why not try to make the narration more realistic? That's a something also we want to talk about. Like we what about like what we're trying to make like should we make like vehicle combat realistic, or should we go something more cinematic, you could say? Maybe instead of like having the time dilation be very big, and when like 1 minute of a car chase takes 15 minutes of game time of real time, like 1 minute of game time takes 15 minutes of real time. Maybe we could try to go in the other direction and try to crunch it as much as we can. Maybe a 5 minutes siege segment of a car chase, or some kind of like vehicle combat should be reduced to just a single dice roll or a few dice roll here and there, and then like from there, from what the player did, we narrate what's gonna happen, maybe even to the whole fucking chase. Maybe that's a way to do it as well. Crapphone say, on a serious note, I think the first edition Rift had some decent rule for vehicle combat, but I don't really remember. It's been so long. My recollection was it was fast and felt right. Oh, I never looked at that one, but that's interesting. And that would be like a more modern game, or like a game with a lot of like modern vehicle and stuff like that, and a lot of even like with the mech suit or like Glitter Boy. So I guess it'd be important for them to have like those high speed kind of combat. But but yeah, I'm not familiar with them. And if you know like system that do like vehicle combat well, because even like in the example that we look, like sometimes like if you look at a like at pirate game and stuff like that, like like or Spelljammer, like Elmo mentioning Spelljammer earlier. They did a new edition of Spelljammer for D&D and didn't include proper rules for ship combat. But I think the rule as written cover most of it. Siege rules should be created and then use the missile rules for that projectile. Vehicle need move speed. I think that covers it. I think Justin say, well, you need to roll every 15 seconds to see if you know how to drive. First of all, just getting here, started from the beginning to of the double speed. Yeah, and what do you have your player roll for? That's something that's interesting as well. And we talk like also what I need to say is is much more than just like cars. And cars oftentimes what we think about now going just say vehicular combat, because that's something we're familiar with. That's something we think about. But when I talk about vehicle combat, I include in that uh, ships and spaceships and motorcycle and horses, and maybe all those also should have different kind of rules. And even in the spaceship, there's the dogfight kind of spaceship. Like if you look at the in Star Wars, something like X-wing and Tie Fighter, which should have maybe different rules from those like a Star Destroyer. They should feel differently. So those are some of the problems that we see with the vehicular combat, and the speed element, the fact that oftentimes there's few choice, oftentimes that, and so. But how can we address those problems? I think I think one thing. Okay, let's talk about if you want to do, for example, ship combat. With you do a pirate game, you have ship on the water, right? And a lot of it can be translated to spaceship as well. If you do like the big spaceship, oftentimes like in science fiction, we see this parallel between like space battle with naval battle, just on a bigger scale with more distance in it. But one thing that is a good way, I think, to a good thing to think about, right, is you need to have emergency on the boat, and you need to have more emergency than players, than player character, I should say, because they need to have a choice. They need to have an emergency that is ignored, or like I say emergency, but like thing that you need to do. It can be like repair some damage. It can be man the gun. It can be looking for if there's a sandbank coming up or stuff like that. Like surveying the environment. That if you do like the ship combat, that can be like an important part. And also like ship combat, you don't have technology. If you're doing like a maybe like a in age of piracy, like in the 16th century or 17th century, you don't have a lot of technology, so you still have like people that need to go actually look. And I think that's an interesting thing to do using the environment. I would say that's also something to do. You want to have the other ship that you're fighting against, have him crash into rocks, have him crash into like a beach or something like that, or having a go where there's not enough bottom. But for that, there needs to be a risk. And having more emergency or more role to fulfill than you have a player character force people to make a choice there. And maybe you have like other crew member that are not player character that are kind of like average, maybe a bit, maybe suck a bit at what they do, but those other thing maybe feel by okay, that's gonna be done like to the minimum, so you don't sink. But that would be one thing I would do as well. Vehicle need to break down, obviously, so stuff break. I say obviously, but if you want to do like this, if you really want to play like the ship combat thing, if you want and ship combat on the water, I think can be treated a bit slower because those ships take like they're slow to maneuver. They can be quite fast, but it's a vast expense with nothing, so it doesn't feel so fast. But they take a long time to turn. They So I think that's one occasion where you can say like, you know what, we're gonna take a few turns, and naval combat was often like quite slow. It's a lot about like set up, you get in position, and then you shoot your shot. I think that could be something to consider. It'd be like a very different feel than if you try to do car combat or plane combat. Though they will not feel the same. And so I think the environment be a factor, and I would link that with kind of having to take a move, make an action that would resolve maybe in a round or two, and maybe in a round if you roll well, in 2 round if you don't. So imagine like you're sitting on your ship, and one player character go to survey what's coming ahead, and then you can say there's rock. If we don't turn, we're gonna hit them. Maybe your ship got a turn rate. That's also something that we could talk about. Having your ship have stat. Does your ship have its own character sheet? That's oftentimes something that is done. Having your ship have a turn rate. And now if you try to if you want to get the crew to do all the proper maneuver to turn, because it's a little more complex than just like turning the steering wheel. If you're not efficient enough, maybe you can crash into those rock. Maybe it's a problem. Maybe you do want to play it close because the guy, hoping that the guy following you will not be able to turn in time and will crash into those rock. Nice seeing you, Shauner. You say, I treat a vehicle combat and movement how it's handled in the Mad Max Fury Road. Yeah, I think that works well for cinematic. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Hopefully, like Tyler is gonna come up soon. He's messaging me. He's still caught up. Yeah. Crapphone say maybe have driver pilots roll for things that are challenged for their skill level. High skill operator don't roll for like a bootlegger, turn and or a ML man roll. But low skill operator do. That's so I might talk about that a bit later, about like maneuver and stuff like that. Magic Wolf, or whatever his name, got held up. Magic Wolf, it's Flame Zombie. Throwing Molotov cocktail again. I don't think that's what he was doing. Yeah. The Mad Max video game from a few years ago did vehicle combat well, but it's more of an action game. Yeah, and that's something like because that's something that's hard to translate in role playing game. Too much to explain. Yeah, he did a video about the combat. Yeah. I would play a game that already has car or spaceship. Trying to shoehorn them into a medieval game or something doesn't give a juice for the squeeze. Well, that's what I'm talking about here. Like I'm not talking about like adding spaceships or cars in D&D. I'm talking about role playing in general, and now I was talking about like ship combat, but because this is not like a D&D focused channel, as you know, but yeah, I would agree. I wouldn't add cars, but that's the thing. Even like games that have ship combat, like spaceship combat or car combat, oftentimes it does, in my opinion, doesn't feel right. Coriolis do something somewhat interesting with the energy point. I'm going ahead of myself. Yeah, skill based work in a setting. Yeah, cinematic for sure. Yeah. Whoops. Ship capability add an interesting dimension. Two of the four crew on the Titanic could not reverse because they were early model turbine made manner. Oh yeah, really? Huh, that's interesting. El Semester Max, Rex Steel, or Cart Wagon are just a black screen event between encounter or travel. There's no rules for that. Even Spelljammer rules suck for combat. The game is made to play one turn, not a matching code or firing pin. To play one character, not machine, cogs, or firing pin. Well, but sometimes it's interesting to, if you like, it can happen. If there's a bad guy after you, you want to run away on your horse, maybe he's going to try to attack you while you run away. Maybe just the running away is part of like that's in a way like the combat, the conflict. Maybe he can catch up to you, maybe try to strike you. How do you deal with that? That can, I think those are things that happen, like at the wagon kind of a chase scene. Those are interesting. Yeah. So, about the ship combat, and that's also like true for other vehicle. And because I'm just talking about like the wagon kind of chase scene, like maybe like it's a guy on a wagon, or like the party on a wagon, and some people pursuing on a horse. Having different vehicle with different capability, that's gonna make a vehicular combat more interesting. I was talking about ship. You can have like those bigger ship that are fast. Big ship tend to be fast, but less maneuverable, versus smaller ship that can go in shallower water, that are more maneuverable, but not quite as fast. So now it can become like there's this there's this notion of tactics that get into play. Of course, if you go this way, you're gonna be into the much more into the weeds. We're gonna take time to do this combat. It's not going to be very fast. It's not going to be like the ice speed kind of a chase. That's why I say like those work well for ship combat, like big vessel, if you're willing to do that. Also having like different goal between uh, the two sides. If you're a pirate crew, you don't necessarily want to sink the boat, the other ship, because maybe you want to steal it. Maybe you want to board it. You want to kill the people man to man, end to end, and then once you do that, then you can use like regular combat rules. But the ship that is trying to get away from the pirates, maybe they just want to sink the pirate. So now you have like different goal. One is trying to get away, trying to get a shot from afar. The other one is trying to avoid that shot. I think if you go like this is something like don't make it too symmetrical. I know a lot of fight were symmetrical. When they would do like the line of battle in naval warfare, they would just go. That would be like fucking boring. Don't do that in your role playing game. Keep things like asymmetrical. It's gonna make it much more dynamic, much more interesting. And same thing that you can do with spaceship. I'm always a big fan. Like in spaceship, you want to do like this sci-fi game. Find some reason that you want to board. You know what I mean? Like find like so you can like get because like if you're just like a bunch of people, even if you look in the doing like Star Trek kind of combat, and Bear is there. Hello, Bear. I know you're a fan of Star Trek, but when you do like the Star Trek kind of a combat in role playing game, that's often so fucking boring. And then you just have like a bunch of people like trying to nerd out and to make up stuff like, oh, I'm trying to recalibrate the tachyon, whatever. And then you just like make a roll for it that's like, oh, it's make an engineering roll. And then like on the next round, you're gonna do like an engineering roll again for a different bullshit that you made. So and same thing if you want to do like make your command roll, it's often gonna be very much too samey. So if you board the ship or if you fight on the ground, you can make it much more interesting. Or if you do even if you do maybe the dog fighting, but even that, like, do you deal the dog? Do you use it because like there's so much motion? Role playing game are not good at managing that much motion. You want to do something fast. You want to do like with those fighter spaceship, like the X-wing and the TIE fighter. It's if you don't go like cinematic, if you don't decide to abstract a lot of it, it's always going to feel slow. So that could work for space, for naval battle. When you go into space, I think that's the point when we should go like much more cinematic and just make it just like deal with narrative. Just say like, okay, you're evade or you're ordered to it because you made this evasive maneuver. So and now you can get aligned for your next shot. You make one roll, it's gonna tell you if you manage to get ordered to it. If you succeed very well, not only you get ordered to it, but you get in position to hit somebody. Those are things. Maybe this is the way to do it. Keep it very fast, keep it very light, but in the same time, if you want to keep it fast and light and deadly, that you don't need to do like 15 shots to one ship to kill it, maybe like 2 or 3, then it can also mean that the player can die pretty easy. Yeah, that's what the chat is saying. Craphone's ship have speed and dexterity. Yeah, something like that. You can call it something else, but Bear say Vehicular Combat. Where's my damn Mad Max RPG finally? Did they make one? Mad Max RPG? Or they probably like one with the name file off. Use the RPG system you already have, yeah. I'm also of the opinion that ship and vehicle combat is best served in the field of war game because of the dehumanized aspect of the machine. That I agree. That's why I'm saying like if you want to do it like in a role playing game, you have to make it like you still have to make it about the people. So it's stuff up like if you're on a ship, stuff happen on the ship that the people has to take care of. Keep it dynamic, keep it like don't zoom out to the point that you just see like the ship and you don't see the people on the ship doing stuff. You want to keep it close to the people, and that's why like the cinematic style play well. And know that if you want to do like the more war game kind of thing, well, now you're going into the war game. So yeah, the role play is going to take a back seat. It's going to be much more. It's going to be much more tactical. Some people like that, and I can enjoy that. But also like I'm okay with those kind of game as well. Like, but I recognize that it's not going to be like the most role playing experience that you can have. In games made for vehicle like Traveler, Starfinder, Coriolis, Rift, BattleTech, have all the vehicular manslaughter you want. It just doesn't work in D&D ever. Ask Chimerian about it. And you know what? I'm gonna say that, and I might make some people like upset, but I think even those game, Coriolis is not too bad. Rift and BattleTech I'm not familiar with, but the other games, like even in those games that are made for supposedly having this vehicular combat, I found that very few of them feel right. Don't roleplay Jutland. Roleplay being on Del Delflinger or Jutland. I know some of those words. Yeah. Sean says Star Trek combat is mostly melee. Well, well, like yeah, they punch each other. That's what they do. Yeah, Star Trek bullshit is so lame. Not like that made up D&D bullshit. I didn't say Star Trek was lame. I didn't say now. Yeah. Charlotte say I think the old Rogue Trader role playing game by Fantasy Fly eventually added vehicle combat in the supplement. Oh, they didn't have like they didn't have it by default. Oh, look at that! Look who's showing up.
Holy shit! Okay, I apologize for that.
Here you,
Okay,
Tyler.
hey, how's it going? I hope it's going better for you guys than it is for me.
I
Can
don't know
you
if
hear me?
people in chat can hear Tyler. I cannot hear him,
Oh,
but it might be my headset that is turned off. Yeah, my headset turned itself off because there was nothing playing in it.
hello?
No, Tyler, sorry for that.
Hey.
My headset turned itself off because like
Ah, okay.
there was nothing playing in it, so I couldn't hear you. Nice seeing you. Thank you for joining.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Okay.
All right, now talk.
We went. Let me rant. Not at all about what we're talking about tonight. I get off work at 6 my time, right? An hour and a half ago. We think, all right, let's go to a food truck. That'll be quick. They sell one fucking thing. They sell fish and chips. That's it. All you have to do is fry potatoes and fry fish. They don't have different kinds of fish. You can get extra fries, you can get extra fish. That's it. 10 people in front of us, it takes an hour and 15 fucking minutes.
So you had a vehicular combat with the food truck.
I was about to, yeah. My fiance joked, we're gonna leave. I hope they leave this parking lot because if not, there's gonna be fucking sugar in their gas tank. God, yeah. They only sell fish and chips, and out of 10 orders in front of us, they managed to get 3 orders wrong.
Oh wow!
Because apparently the people cooking could not count between the numbers of 3 and 5 and how many pieces that they needed to get in there. So now it's just stacking. They fuck up one order. Now everybody else's order is late behind them. It's like, good lord.
Yeah.
So I apologize for that.
Well, sometimes life's happening.
Yeah.
For next time, don't go to the food truck.
Yeah.
I hope it was good at least.
Oh, well, I don't fucking know yet. I just got home, but
already.
Yeah.
Huh. So tell us about like vehicular combat. Did you get? Yeah, I guess you didn't catch you were like driving and stuff like that. Eh?
You
didn't see me try to filling the blank.
No. What have we? Give me the lowdown. What have we covered so far?
I talk about some of the problem that we have in
Mm,
vehicular combat, them being repetitive, people being stuck in one
yep.
role, doing the
Yeah,
same kind
yeah.
of thing, them being
Mm,
slow when they should be fast,
mm,
those kind of thing. I started talking about like some idea, like for especially for naval battle, what you can do, trying to use the
mm,
environment, having your ship do maneuver like that, maybe like it's gonna resolve in 2 or 3 rounds, maybe depending on how you roll, stuff like that. Having stuff like a kind
mm,
of like a scripted kind of combat if you
mm.
want like this feel of like those big vessels that move slowly.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was kind of like going through, and then I
Mm.
interacted with the chat some.
All right. All
But
right.
I'm
Whew.
glad you're here
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
because that's what we are talking earlier. Like
Mm,
we wanted to make this show a bit different, where we're doing like more
mm.
the brainstorming and like talking about the,
Uh-huh.
and then like you couldn't show up.
Yeah, shit. Well,
So
I,
I didn't prepare in the same way.
yeah, yeah. I think on the note of already seeing good comments in here. Let me catch up. Okay. I think on the note of driving being one note in a lot of games, only being one role is
Yep.
not giving good mechanics for driving and doing other stuff, because it's normally like you can do one thing at a time if there's an action economy or something like that, or
Yep.
it's you need whatever, but sometimes
You
it's
know,
hmm,
let's back up a bit before we go into that. Is there
uh,
any games that you think have very good vehicle combat rules?
I wouldn't say Shadowrun has very good vehicle combat rules, but I would say it's the closest. I think the vehicle rules in Shadowrun most closely emulate the feel of driving a car, or controlling a car through like a PKD wirehead sort of a system, but it's clunky. It's slow, which is the problem. If you run it exactly rules as written, it's going to be slow, and it will feel mechanically as a car should, but it won't feel fast like a car chase should. So
Hmm.
Shadowrun's got the um every vehicle is going to have not just speed but acceleration in addition to the max speed,
Yeah.
and then they're going to have a certain amount that they can turn. They're going to have a total amount of health on the vehicle in addition to or body in a Shadowrun, in addition to how difficult it is to damage the vehicle in the first place. And then you can customize it a ton. We'll get to Rex Steele's comment on that later. Um, but yeah, if you're running it, you come up to a hairpin turn, make a drive check, and you roll, your 12d6 for your die check, and you're sitting there counting and then you come up to another hairpin turn. I need another drive check, and it's like, oh my god. So, you know,
Yeah, and oftentimes like it's not always also like a. Oftentimes you're in a situation where like the GM is gonna tell you, oh, okay, make a drive check. There's a turn, make a drive, like so like the check is like prompted by the GM instead of like the player saying, oh, I want to try this, and then
mm,
GM says, okay, make that
yeah,
check. You know what I mean? It's just like
no,
the check happened to the player instead of like
mm,
instead of like by his player agency, and that's something also
yeah,
that should be avoided if you can.
mm,
Don't say, oh, okay, now there's a curve, make a drive check,
yeah,
or now there's like
yeah,
traffic, make a drive check. Like first, like don't make
yeah,
them drive check that often, because of like
yeah,
then well, I suck at driving, I'm gonna suck at driving many times in a row. But let your player say, okay, I try to I put my blinker to the left and then turn to the right, okay, make a deception. But that's a joke a bit, but I have
yeah.
something that the player's trying to do something and then have them roll for it. But otherwise, yeah, you're going in a straight line. All right, fair enough. I couldn't read that.
Oh, sorry.
If they could count on they would run. Oh yeah, for leaving the city.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, have reasons for drive checks. Yeah,
yeah,
I agree.
yeah,
Big,
and
and your driver is going to see what's ahead of them, and your
yeah,
driver shouldn't just be making the drive checks all the time. They should also be making whatever the equivalent of your game of perception checks is, trying to look ahead.
Yeah.
If you ever see, motorcyclists, what are they doing? They're always, weaving in and out, trying to see, what's ahead of, if traffic's backing up.
Yep.
Or,
And
you think of like the driver in like a bank heist, while they're just sitting there, don't have the player that's in the car, the getaway driver, just sitting there waiting for everybody else to get done doing the bank heist, and then now they get to play the game once it's done. No,
and
have them,
while
they're looking
nobody
out for.
else do anything.
Yeah, they're looking out for cops, on the way. They're
Yep.
trying to be, subtle. Maybe somebody comes up and is like, "Hey, why are you here leaving your car running, man?" Yeah, and they have to, bluff, play it off, whatever.
I wouldn't mind too much like having the getaway driver like just
Mm,
sitting there like because like it's supposed to be fast anyway. You're gonna do the bank
mm,
heist,
mm,
and that's also aligned with the fiction. You're sitting there and you're waiting. That's what the getaway driver is doing. But
mm,
the problem is like when everybody's in the same car, and what the passenger do. Are they gonna
mm,
shoot at
mm,
people? They're gonna
mm,
But to those check that matters, and
mm.
you like you say like you mentioned like I mentioned earlier while you were not there like in a ship, have the environment matter as well, like like, and
Yeah.
you have to plan ahead a bit, and so I have those people like look out, and know, okay, now we're going in that direction because you're in motion. You
Mm.
have to remember you're in motion.
Yeah.
If there's an
Mhm.
obstacle ahead, you're gonna eventually hit it.
Yeah.
So you have to spot it, and then you have maybe like a few rounds to react, and now you can decide how close you want to cut it,
Mm.
stuff like that. For the for
Yeah.
the for the drive for the driving, if you're getting away on a chase and stuff like that, have them like try to push your player to force the other to, like they're gonna do something that's gonna make them do a drive check. Like maybe I'm rolling on the road. I go on the other side of the road, and now I drive on the opposite side of traffic. Okay, now the GM can ask to make a drive check. If the other guy follows you, he's gonna have to make a drive check again. If he doesn't want to follow you, maybe that's how you get away.
Mhm.
Uh, so those are kind of
Mhm.
idea that you want to do. Like you want to just don't have every round
Mm.
automatically make the drive check.
Or maybe you're trying to, one of the passengers in your car is trying to shoot a guy, so your drive check is, oh, I'm going to try to keep it steady so that he can get a good shot. I'm not going to be, swerving back and forth, or I'm trying to swerve but not throw the guy in the back around. Something that requires a lot of finesse as a driver. Um, And then, yeah, that's something I think Shadowrun does well because of its setting, not even necessarily because of anything else, because of how much technology you have. You aren't just if you're four dudes in a van, you're not all relegated to, oh, I shoot out of the van if that's not an option, because sometimes you want to do a subtle getaway, right? You're not, if you look in real life, yeah, obviously you shouldn't always look. Oh, that was
Yeah.
weird.
What?
Um,
What happened?
I don't know.
You don't know. You
I
just
was,
thought something was weird. I don't know. You just stopped talking, so all of a sudden.
yeah, I don't know why I cut out there. Um, what I was going to say is, you shouldn't just in Shadowrun you have the advantage of not everyone's always just shooting out of the car. You've got the guy on his computer that's might be hacking the other guy's car, trying to make him slam on his brakes
Yeah.
or something, or you've got one guy who's looking out, scanning the police scanners, looking at where they're at. Or you might be trying to do a stealthy getaway. Most of the time people get
Hmm.
away with stuff. It's not because they drove 150 miles an hour through heavy traffic. It's because they drove a inconspicuous vehicle and just managed to get away through very subtle driving.
Yeah. Or sometimes you want to drive like very fast until you can get to and do a
Mm.
switch a car, get some
Hmm.
distance so
Hmm.
you can switch car. That's something.
Yep.
Yeah, I think something because with cars, this cars are designed to be driven by one person, and then you can have like some people like shooting outside. Like yeah,
Hmm.
if you're
Hmm.
gonna instead like Shadowrun, yeah, maybe they can hack at the other car, especially like if you're like in Call of Tulu,
Mm.
that's not gonna be an option really. If you're like
Yeah,
well, if you're in the
exactly.
1920s, you can set Call of Tulu whenever you want. But one thing that can be done, one role that can be done, maybe one guy can do the navigation even in the car, and
Yeah.
have them like maybe like this is the point. Like I think like you can let the player kind of decide what's like let them decide with their navigation check what's coming up ahead. You know,
Mhm.
instead of telling them like, oh, okay, now it's a straight line, now there's an exit, now there's a tight curve, stuff like that. Maybe it's the guy say, oh, I know this area, or I got the map or whatever.
Mhm.
I'm gonna I'm gonna tell my guy like, okay, go there. There's a one way street on that side, or there's a very narrow street here. Our car will go through, but there's gonna be too big, or maybe like you can you can bet on the other driver following you not being good enough, stuff like that,
Mhm.
or maybe if you put enough distance, then maybe you can say, okay, take the next left, and then we can there's a place that we can hide there, but let the player come up with those things. But maybe you want to have them like make this like a knowledge role of the location, or a navigation role, or like they should know something. So this is one thing also you can have like a player do that add some variety to just shooting, and just
Mhm.
have them shoot at other thing than the car, maybe, or have them
Open their door and get a guy on the motorcycle.
yeah, maybe,
Like coordinate
yeah,
that. That
yeah.
what was that, John Wick 2 or 3, where he does that? He slams on his brakes with the door open and takes the guy flying off the motorcycle.
I didn't see the John Wick movie,
Boom.
yeah, create obstacle for the pursuit.
Mm, mm,
uh but a big part of it is like the player has to be creative as well. You have to, but you have to push them in a way as a GM, like to give them like
mm.
say like, you know what, get some
Maybe
opportunity
even,
to.
yeah, maybe even you've got one guy who's like on the phone or on a megaphone or whatever, trying to negotiate with the cops as they're running away.
Yeah,
That sort of thing.
and maybe if you want to have like this kind of game as well, and you want like the and you plan that the player are going to be like the pursued at some point and try to get away, have them be the pursuant first, so they can see some of those maneuver by other people, like kind of plant the seed in that way, give them
Mm,
an example of like oh, the guy that now they're doing this, now like they shooting at the water hydrant, and now like as you pass the water, the road is full of water, it's slippery, stuff like that,
yeah.
give
Yeah,
an
and
idea.
and racing, be it illegally because you're trying to get away from someone or for
Yeah,
fun, it's ultimately about risk management.
yeah,
Are you going to take the one that really pushes your skill and the car's limits, but it's theoretically faster, or are you going to take the route that's very safe? You're going to make that corner every single time you try it, but
hmm
the guy who pushed it might end up getting right in the corner. And I don't
and
think a lot of GMs do that with these car scenes. It's just sort of okay, there's a DC you need to hit. That's it. If you hit the
yeah,
DC, good. If you don't hit the DC, bad. And they
that
don't
that
go,
that,
well,
that that's also
yeah,
part of what I was like saying, like when I say like
mm,
have a guy like do the navigation check and like choose
yeah,
different
yeah, mm,
road, like choose one
mm,
that is more difficult, choose one that
yep,
is like easier,
mm,
safer, maybe some road will, maybe
yep.
some place will give damage to the car, and then like you
Do
have
you
like,
watch do you ever watch Rally?
no.
Any rally car drive? Well, you know how that they'll have
Yeah,
the co-driver that's
yeah.
reading off the
Oh
instructions,
yeah, yeah, I've
and
seen some of that, yeah.
sometimes they'll say, rocks inside, do not cut. So
Hmm.
don't cut the inside line because there's rocks, you're gonna fuck your car up.
Yeah,
But sometimes the more interesting one is cut maybe, which is if you're feeling like it, you can maybe shave, a second or two off if you cut this corner. But if your wheel comes off the ground mid turn, you get a little sketchy there. Or if somebody's kicked rocks onto the track that weren't there when you went through it to test
yeah,
it earlier. So yeah, maybe think about if you know you're going to have a driver in your campaign and multiple people in it, you might set up somebody as your sort of non your designated navigator, co-driver, or whatever.
So when it comes to like now we're talking a lot about car chase and like car and
Mm,
or if you want to ram somebody, that's also something you can do. I mean, like and there's probably like a way to yeah, there's probably a way that you can manage damage as well. Like if you ram somebody and maybe if you roll well, you can ram them in a way that's gonna damage their car more than yours. That's also something that that can be taken into consideration. But when when it comes to car, we agree that you should keep it them fast, right? I think if you want to make them interesting role playing game, and if you don't want to devolve into playing a war game, keep the car fast
mm.
and don't do like round per round, every round being 6 seconds. We're gonna role play like every six. We're gonna
R-
game every 6 seconds.
Racing in real life gets boring when it gets strategic. If you have the time to think about the strategy for your race in the race and not like a broad, game plan, that means something's, but you've sort of solved the race, right?
Yeah,
It's why Formula One and NASCAR viewership's awful right now, because everyone knows what they're going to expect, and
yeah,
it's like, what do we have to think about now that all of the cars are, pretty much the same speed? Well, we have to think about strategy, and it's like, it's the most boring 300 miles an hour you'll ever see.
but it's also there are also like tracks that are very little chaos when you do like a
Yeah.
chase, like in like maybe like following some crime or like because like there's some people getting away. Like when it's more like
Mm.
vehicular combat that we're talking about,
Mm.
there's gonna be more chaos because you're gonna be like on normal. You're not on a track.
This is a real risk here, because I find this is the issue with Shadowrun, is it does it the realistic way, which is, yeah, if you crash your
Yeah,
car going 90 head on, everybody in that car is probably dead unless there's something crazy going on.
yeah,
But most games I find have the opposite issue, where car crashes are not nearly as lethal as they should be. And you get people, just walking away from like miraculous
and that
uh,
if you make your car crashes
mm,
deadly and
mm,
people like the character in the games want to survive, then you have like an aspect of risk management. Do you want
mhm.
to real drive like 90
Yeah,
or
like a maniac. Yeah.
140 for people that speaking like normal language? We talk about kilometer an hour, 90 miles an hour.
Fuck is a kilometer? We only measure in cubits here.
Yeah, well, you're close with you anyway. But do we want like people like that's also something you have to train your player as like if you crash at 90 miles an hour, you're probably gonna fucking die. Maybe everybody in the car is gonna die. But if you're confident in your driving skill and you think you're a better driver than the guy
Mm.
pursuing you, maybe it's worth it going 90 miles an hour because then
Or
he got a chance to crash as well.
or if you think you just have more nerve, because a lot of,
Yeah,
depending on where you are, the cops just won't chase you if you're going a certain speed. So,
yeah,
you might not be as good a driver as, whoever's chasing you, but if you're willing to take risks that they aren't, then,
mm, yeah. But it mean like so the crash damage should be like proportional to the speed you go.
mm,
How would you
mm.
do a game of chicken in a role
Ooh.
playing game?
I think I would primarily use if there's like a bluff, or just a generic diploma, like a charisma or face skill. Yeah, yeah, I would use bluff, not
Yeah,
because that's more. Hmm, that's that's
you wouldn't
tricky
use
though, right?
something like bluff or something like not moral but almost like your guts. You have like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
about bluff, but it's also about like how much
Mm,
like your courage. If you had
mm.
some stat, there's something
Yeah.
about maybe just a charisma role, maybe just like
Maybe, yeah, maybe one person's bluffing and the other person's trying to using their sort of willpower or something to
yeah,
see through
willpower.
yeah, trying to see if it is a bluff or not. Yeah, that's tricky.
And that would be just a single roll.
Yeah,
you resolve
I
it
mean, I
pretty
wouldn't
fast.
give it more than one roll because if you're playing
Mhm.
chicken, you don't have. If you give them too many rolls, then it becomes like, how far away
Or
did we start this game of chicken?
you know what? Maybe no. You know what? Maybe I'll give it two roll.
Mm,
One for maybe bluff
and yeah,
or willpower stuff like that, and one for driving.
yeah,
Because there's one
in
thing.
case
There's
you
one
guess
thing like
wrong. Yeah.
well, not only that, but there's one thing to say like if you want to swerve at the last moment, can you? Did you judge
Mhm,
the
mhm,
of how
yep,
close are you willing to be, and are you capable of swerving in the right direction? You don't want to
mm,
swerve in the same direction as the other guy as well.
mhm,
And yeah, so maybe I would do like in two roll, and then maybe there's a match there. If you go closer, then the DC for the drive check is higher for you and for the other guy. So then again, it
mhm.
becomes a I don't know.
Yeah, I would say probably the one roll, and then whoever failed at that sort of test of wills, they have to
They have
try
to do
and
drive
swerve out of
because
the
yeah,
way
because
now.
the other one just keep going
The other
straight.
guy's yeah, he's not swerving, because and you can get into like what kinds of car,
Mm,
is the guy in the steel body, Ford Mustang, he's probably not going to swerve to miss the Honda, the little Geo
yeah.
Metro. He's probably
So would he have like a bonus to his bluff check based on the
yeah,
how
I would
confident he
based
is with
on the
his car?
scenario, yeah. Where yeah, I would say if the other guy knows anything about driving, he's going, I don't think that guy could swerve if he wanted to. I don't think that guy's getting out of the way.
Connor got good recommendation there, saying like a reputation, yeah, could be a factor.
Mm-mm.
Reflex as well,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, reputation. Let me weeb out for
Reputation
a
would
second.
would be yeah, exactly. Reputation would be very interesting
I,
to
I I don't know if they're this might not be the initial D crowd. I have a feeling it's not, but you know the racing anime initial D, there's this crazy dude that drives at midnight on a mountain with no lights and just races people off the edge of the mountain. Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, and nobody wants to race him for that reason. He's got that sort of grim reputation. Yeah, that's true as well. American Graffiti. Yep. Oh, even earlier in Initial D though, there's the guy in the Honda Civic, Shingo, who rams people off the road because Honda Civics, they're front wheel drive, they understeer, so he goes around a corner that he knows his car can't take, but he'll just take the inside line and ram you off the road. So it's like, do you really want to get next to that guy? You might let him win the race because he'll do anything to win, or he'll kill both of you just so he doesn't lose.
Yeah, there was a comment there by Justin that I thought was really good. A getaway drive in a game is only really good if someone gets wounded before retreating to the getaway vehicle. I think that can add a lot because now it gives somebody something to somebody in the car to do as well on the back seat. Now you
Mm,
try to do the first aid.
yeah. Mm,
Mm,
yeah.
can add as well. How do you feel about like the stat for the car?
Mm,
Just a few
I think they need at
or
least a few.
at least a few? Which one would be
Because
like maneuverability, speed? Do we go like speed and acceleration, or just like a rapid into one, and then
I
some
think you
damage?
can. I think you can do either. But um, I don't think you need to get too simulationist. I like acceleration and speed when it's just an easy enough thing to go like, you're not going to get above 60 miles an hour here, right?
Yeah,
You need to get to the end of the block as quickly as possible. The car with the higher acceleration is just going to win. We don't need to roll anything. We just compare the numbers.
yeah.
You need to
Well,
get on, just as fast as possible, and you have as much time as you want to get there. Yeah, the car with the higher top speed is going to get there.
mhm.
Um,
Also, like
but mm,
you're not gonna go in a straight line, so oftentimes you're gonna slow down, you're gonna
yeah,
accelerate as well. So acceleration actually, or I would
yeah,
wrap them into one. Just I would call it speed, just to make it simple. Just like that's your speed. Your car is faster. yeah, it's got more acceleration. Top speed rarely become like an issue in those kind of contexts.
Yeah, yeah. Um, unless you're, if you've got like a what am I thinking? The Dark Knight, where he's got to get the bomb out of the city as fast as possible, and he's cramming the thing to top speed.
Yeah, but
It's just a matter of can he get there, but
even that, like me, like if you're like if you're not on a straight line, you're not gonna get to top speed really very
yeah,
often.
but
Or
he was in a straight line there. It
yeah,
was just a matter of how far
yeah.
can he get out there. But again, that's not really a thing you roll for. It's just
No, exactly. And
it's just a fixed number.
what
I think it would be
once
fine
you're on
if
a
they.
straight line,
Mm,
because like I said, like I think we should stay away from this kind of round. Like it's not gonna be
mhm,
round based on
mhm.
time. It's gonna be
Yeah.
kind of round based on events, based on like something's happening here. Like now, oh, you come in there's traffic. Now we resolve this issue. Oh, you
Mm,
come and
yeah.
I'm going. I'm gonna try to jump the broken bridge, or like jump the bridge that is like raising to let the boat pass. Now we role play this segment
Mm,
here. Not do
mm,
the round by round. And if you're on a
mm.
straight line, that's gonna be one segment that's gonna say that you're on a straight
Yeah.
line. Oh,
Yeah.
your car is faster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for those situations, if you just have like the one speed factor for the car, I think that's good enough.
Mm.
For I don't think having separate splitting boat is very relevant.
Yeah, it's usually not because
Mm.
in Shadowrun splits it into two, but I mean you almost never care about your top speed because where are you going to be driving? You're going to be driving in a city, and
Yeah.
you're going to need to brake and slow down and get around. And if you're having to brake to a total stop, it's bad if you're already at your top speed because was it every 10 miles above 60 your braking distance increases by some exponential amount, so something like that. So yeah, I think you could have it either way, but if you do, you shouldn't be rolling for acceleration or speed all the time. It's just
No.
that should just be a fixed number. And then the other stat I would say you would want is some sort of durability for the vehicle.
Like basically hit point or like
Yeah,
damage
more
it
or
can
less.
take.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you feel about like the taking damage on the different part of the vehicle? Like, does it matter? Like, oh, it's your tire brake or your rear axle brake or your
I, I
wheel get misaligned.
I think it's something that could pretty easily be role played if you've got those three stats. I'm trying to shoot the tires out. Okay, well, it's probably going to suffer in speed and maneuverability and everything.
Hmm.
I I'm going to try to shoot the engine out. Well, it's most bullets don't go through an engine block, so you're going to have a really tough
Well, yeah.
time doing that unless you're But assuming you have something like an anti-material rifle or something. Uh, and you can shoot through it, then it's like, well, that's going to totally stop the car. You don't really need a rule to tell you if the car doesn't have a working engine, it doesn't move.
Well, yeah, but if you shoot the engine, even if it doesn't go through, you don't need to go through the engine block to disable the engine. There's a bunch of things that can break in there.
Yeah, yeah, but
But so but if you say I want to shoot the engine, I want to shoot the tire and stuff like that, those are like called shot.
yeah, yeah.
Are there word like oftentimes like games like a lot of games don't have necessarily like mechanics are called shot. Are
Mm,
they necessary in a when you do the vehicular combat? Is like a vehicle big enough that you have like different target? Would it be like a different number to hit? Or hitting a tire is going to be like a 15
it's
to
pretty
hit if you
hard.
just
Yeah.
shoot at the car in
Mm,
general. What if you try to aim at the passenger or the occupant
mhm,
of the car?
mhm. Yeah.
Are they behind cover and now you have
Mm,
but they're also sitting, so they're not like
yeah.
but the car is moving. How
Mm.
would you deal with that? We just like let's say like let's keep the example like some people like you have like a DC or a AC to hit them.
Uh, uh.
uh how would you deal with that?
I would try to do. I hopefully the game has degrees of success, or if it doesn't, I'll try to do that because it's very unlikely that you just say pulled up next to the car. You're trading shots with it, side by side, a lanes width apart. You're probably not going to totally miss the car unless you're just an absolute crap shot.
Hmm.
um, so maybe you make your called shot, and if you get close D20, within 5 you don't hit what you were aiming at, but you do hit the car. So maybe you were aiming at a person, you don't hit the person you were aiming at, but you hit the person next to them. Maybe you were aiming at the tire and you don't hit the tire, but you hit the body of the car.
Yeah.
And if it's small arms fire, that doesn't do anything really. But if it's, with if you're making like a called shot with like, I don't know, some heavy munitions, it kind of doesn't matter. You're gonna do some damage no matter where you hit. Maybe their doors. You were aiming at the tire, but instead you hit it, the doors flying off, and now they don't have as much aerodynamics. Their car's slowing down a little bit. They're swerving. Maybe they just panic because they got
Or
hit by a really big round.
or then you think the passenger is just like, oh, it's just
Mhm.
easier
Yeah,
afterward. Maybe that's
yeah,
only the thing that you get there.
yeah. Um,
And because like hitting the body of the car doesn't do much if you have like a small arm, like it's not gonna
yeah,
stop the
yeah.
car. Do we need like the damage stat for the car? Maybe for like if you take bumps, if you go too
Mm,
fast, if you jump with the car.
yeah.
But other than that, if you shoot at a tire, the tire is gonna be gone. And then you have like the effect of a gun tire. If you shoot at the gas tank, the gas is gonna leak. And then you're gonna deal with the effect of the leak gas.
I think the health should only really apply to like frame damage. So like you're
Yeah.
ramming into another car, how banged up is your vehicle now? And or you crash into the side of a building, how banged up is your vehicle? How good is your vehicle at, plowing over stop signs and stuff like that? Maybe
Hmm.
you're maybe that's a resource to manage. Every ditch that you run through or every fence that you cut through, that takes off a little bit of your health, and it doesn't matter immediately, but eventually you're all this little stuff, all of a sudden your suspension's totally screwed, and you can't turn very well. You got a jangling CV axle over here and leaking oil everywhere. And on the topic of small arms, uh, on the topic of small arms, yeah, they might not do any realistic damage to the car, even if they miss the occupants and the tires. But let's say you've got away and you're in, a town where you don't know anybody, and your car is riddled with bullet holes.
Yeah.
And now what are you gonna do? Are you gonna go? You gonna try and find a chop shop that's willing to you pay them enough and they're willing to ignore whatever your story is,
Or you
or
just
what?
ditch the car and steal another one.
Yeah,
But
and it doesn't have. Did
mm,
you already?
yeah.
Is that card registered in your name though, and it's gonna get tracked back to you? And
Well, you don't get shot at in your own car. Come on. Amateur. But like because like there's thing that like yeah, if you shoot a tire, what about like then you have like maybe now we go back in 2 round. You have like in 3 round,
yeah.
you're gonna lose like control of the car. So
Mm,
now like now because now it's time to crunch down the time because you shoot the radiator, your engine is gonna shut off. You're gonna run out of gas if you shoot the gas tanks and the gas leak. Maybe it's only like you go to event and that's putting you in one event. Now this is the end of the car chase.
mm.
Maybe now we was pretty fast and loose with the time, going very cinematic, going very fast, like in a movie. When something
Yeah.
happened, when like the car chase is about to end because of some event, now you can like you go into more detail. Would that be like a good way of dealing with that, you think?
Yeah. Like you get into the situation where everybody realizes we need to bail out of the car. Then you bail
Yeah.
out of the car, and there's probably like a
And
more
now,
standard combat round shootout with
yeah,
whoever's caught
and
up to you.
exactly, it's almost like and now it's also the time to make your exit strategy.
Mm,
In about between like 3 and 5 round or whatever. Maybe you roll a d6 stuff like that. Like
yeah.
you realize like you're losing your gas. The car is gonna shut down. What you can like now it's interesting to okay, now I need to do something. So now everything is an event. Everything is something you're trying to do. Everything is something interesting.
Mm. That's the perfect time
So
for a roll at the end when you're abandoning your vehicle. Were you stupid enough to use your own vehicle rolling? No. Hopefully we don't roll for those sorts of things, but I mean that's a let's get into like customization on that note. Rex Teal said earlier, we need to keep in mind the amount of customizability players could have for their vehicles, which would be a lot no matter what system it is, and that's a good thing. Players make it their own. You know,
Well, I think
if
it's not only like about the system, it's about the setting as well. Like if you like play like in 1920s Call of Tulu, well, you're not gonna have like a lot of customization. A car is a car, you know what I mean?
no, those are
What?
coach built. Those are like hand built cars. People, if you had like a Ford Model A or a Model T, yeah, but like that's the era hot rods are starting. If you have rich characters, but
The stock
yeah, if
car,
it's
like for the moonshiner.
yeah,
Yeah,
those no, because
yeah.
prohibition's just starting, so it's
I
it's
guess, yeah. I guess. Yeah, you're right. I guess I didn't think of
no,
that.
it's not to the amount we would have today. Yeah, today
You're
we're
not gonna have like a
spoiled for
James Bond
choice, but
car,
no,
but
no, but
yeah, you can have like stiffer
no,
suspension or
yeah, yeah.
stronger engine.
uh,
Yeah,
long headers, dual holly carbs. Mm.
yeah. How far do you
Yeah.
want to go into that?
Uh-huh,
This
uh-huh.
is like, oh, your car is do you have like a bulletproof gas tank maybe?
Mm, mm,
That could be something you could add. Yeah, I guess.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Let's
because
move away from car. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
but I was just gonna say with that, if you're customizing it, yeah, you would be getting into the chase shootouts with your own car, and that becomes, is the driver the guy that's sort of everybody else in the car is like, come on, man, this is she's done. Well, we're gonna bail out, but the driver's like spent so much money, and eventually, some of those cars,
Yeah.
do they get to the point where they've made the car their baby, but they know it's going to get shot at and beat to shit, and they really have that attachment and have to go, can I save it? I would love to save it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. That's
mm,
gonna be an
mm,
interesting seed for role play. Like the car become a
mm.
character in itself.
Yeah, I mean the first John Wick movie,
It's like
people always
General
think
Lee.
it's yeah, but I mean the first John Wick movie, people always think it's about the dog, but it's mostly about the car. He's because he gets his car stolen. That's the thing he
Yeah.
can get back. He can't get back his dog that was killed, but he can go and get his car back.
Mm-hmm. So let's move away from car.
Mm-hmm.
We agree. Like in car combat, car chase, when like you're just like driving around, make it more cinematic. Don't go round after round. Go
Mm-hmm.
from event to event, maybe until like the end when something happen. Keep it light, keep it fast. That would be like the general advice, right?
Yeah.
I talked about a bit about the ship a bit. I would like to have
Mm-hmm.
like a like if you have like those big like naval vessel. I'd like to have your take about that because that's something that can come a lot because people play D&D and stuff like that. You don't have cars there, but you would have
Mm-hmm.
like those big boat.
Yep. And it happens in like the high future sci-fi too. You've got
Yep.
space naval combat, which is
Yeah,
basically it's naval
yeah.
combat with an extra degree.
Let's go
Um,
with naval combat and then we can move to the space one
mm,
after like because there's gonna be parallel between the two.
mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
Or you
I
because like I was saying
mm,
like for naval combat, I would be
mm,
okay with going a little slower like
yeah,
getting a little more into the weed. I don't know
yeah.
why. I feel like I don't have the same need for speed when it comes to
Well,
boat.
because when with the exception of like an anchor drop, you're not going to be slamming on the brakes and breaking at 100 feet and then pulling hairpin turns.
Yeah, even
It's
an anchor
kind
drop
of
doesn't
once you've
drop that
got the
fast.
boat, yeah, once you've got a boat set in motion, it's going to be going in that direction for a little bit, and then it's
Hmm.
you can only turn so fast with so much weight if the wind's in the right direction, depending on what kind of vessel it is,
Yeah.
how fast you can turn. Is it a road vessel and half of your crew's just been taken out by the grape shot or something, and now you're dead in the water anyways, things like that. So yeah, I would say it is fine for that to be a little slower. I would
If
say in
you're if
general,
you're if you're if you're like a rowing ship, if you're like
mm, a
with
trireme or
oars,
something.
yeah, I find like now like that much closer to cars
Hmm.
because you're not so dependent on the wind.
Mm,
You got this acceleration. You can decelerate much faster as well. You can turn much faster
mm,
because you can just like have your rower go in different directions, stuff like that. I find like that you almost like you're almost back to cars at that point, because then also like that's you're gonna try to ram each other. What do you think?
A little
What we
bit.
discussed about car, a lot of it would apply then, no?
Yeah, a little bit, but the big difference is boarding.
Yeah,
Which I think is where naval combat gets interesting, is when you make the decision, and historically, vessels are, they're either made as a boarding vessel or they're made as a bombardment vessel, and that's pretty much
yeah.
true for up until modern naval combat. Um,
Well, like
and
ancient, they were like the ramming vessel,
yeah, yeah,
where you just
yeah,
try to get your
cut them in
front and
half.
their
Yeah.
side.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm.
yeah,
But yeah, so I would say the big difference is, when you ram in a car chase, usually, the guy's fighting with his airbag and, trying to
yeah.
punch out his windshield, and all you have to do is get out and, you know, that's it. It's pretty much
Shoot them in the
over.
face.
Yeah, pretty much over after you T-bone the guy.
Yeah.
As
If
long as
well, depending
you're
on
also conscious. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Whereas in a
because
boat, that's made to ram people.
yeah,
uh you get out of that and board the enemy vessel if it's still seaworthy after the ram, or if you've just hooked to it and you've laid your boarding planks. uh and then that allows, because I find most often the pitfalls to avoid are when you do not have, when you have a group of characters that are used to, they're characters that they're land dwelling, and all of a sudden they need to get on a boat for transportation, and they get attacked on the boat by pirates or whatever,
yeah,
and then it's like, okay, well, what are these characters doing that are not specialized in naval jobs? Ideally, you want to get them boarded as fast as possible, in my opinion. That way,
yeah,
that they can do what they're made to do.
yeah. I agree.
um,
But like, let's say if you have a campaign of pirates, like
mm,
the party are
mhm,
pirates, and
yeah.
now that's what the people want to play. You're like
Mhm,
and again, to keep these things simple, and we can talk about a skill based game or whatever. But like,
yeah.
if you were like in the D&D game, D20, like
Mm.
just because that's what people are familiar, how would you do it to make it interesting?
So I
I'll let you talk a bit. I'll be right back.
okay. I like having
I'm
roles.
still hearing you.
Yeah, I like having roles for on the ship, and those roles can be, broken at any point. I don't mean like a class where it's like if you're the captain of the ship, you can only do captainy things. But have if you're having a ship and you know they're going to be on a ship for a long time and you don't run it like a military vessel, you're going to run into mutinies. It's going to be, you're probably going to fall apart at your first combat unless you get really lucky. You need everybody to know what their thing is. So I like having, okay, who's going to be sailing the ship, who's going to be, part of a boarding crew, who's going to be manning, cannons or arbalests or whatever your ranged weaponry on the ship might be, um, who's going to be triaging, attending to the medical things. That way, everyone's not just doing the exact same thing. Not everyone's just sitting on the ship and go, I shoot at the enemy ship, I shoot at the enemy ship, for round after round until you've drained this giant bag of hit points. That's kind of a problem with modern D&D in general.
Yeah,
But they're all doing, you've got the captain, directing, sales and stuff like that. Maybe your um oh my gosh, what am I thinking? The guys who are supposed to raise and lower sails. I forget what that profession is. But yeah, those
the
guys,
rigger,
maybe those get, huh?
the rigger.
Yes, riggers. Yes, they get blown off, and somebody's, he's giving directions, but nobody's following them, and
Yeah,
now the guy who's manning the cannons has to go. Oh shit! Do we need? Is it more important? It's probably more important that we don't run into that, reef over there. So all go get and start doing that. That way, there's this urgency. They're running around all over the
yeah.
ship, and they don't just feel like I'm stuck in my place, and all I do is sit here and fire the turret for 5 rounds until we win or lose.
So I think like I kind of like resource management, where the crew
Mm,
is your
mm.
resource. I think that's an
Yeah, yeah.
interesting part
Uh-huh.
if you want to do this kind of like
Yeah.
management of the ship. Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
then, customize your No comment. Um, you know, there's an archetype in Shadowrun called the Rigger, which is the driver, and I don't think there's any Shadowrun player that has not laughed at that at least at one point. um,
But
yeah, yeah. This is very true, especially when you get into like boarding,
yeah, yeah.
which is you get into boarding, and when you get into boarding, just like customizing your vessel, you would also customize your crew. Is your crew specialized at do they want to get the vessel basically dead before they even start boarding, or do you have a boarding specialized crew with their short little boarding pikes and boarding hatchets and that sort of stuff? You know, Are the gutter snipes gonna have to come out and see the sun finally? Yeah, a larder. Yeah, this is the people in modern D&D love playing cook type characters. Of course, this is where a cook is very important. Actually, make sure your crew isn't getting scurvy when there isn't combat.
But how do you deal with the? Oh yeah, that's interesting. Like the life on the ship outside of combat.
Yeah, because there's a
Maybe that's
lot of
outside of the
downtime on a
scope.
ship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but oftentimes this is in wave as well.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but like you mentioned, like having the chain of command, right?
Mm.
And how is that? How do you avoid like having like this like kind of hierarchy between the PC? Is that a bad thing? And how do you avoid like, oh, you're the navigation guy. You're gonna do the navigation thing, and it's always gonna you say like, yeah, not every player do I shoot at the ship every round, but one player is gonna shoot at the ship every round if you're the gunner.
Mm. Yeah.
Or ship shoot one round, reload the gun the other round. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you make that interesting? Uh,
Um, if a gunner is really effective, I like, maybe the other vessel is like, hey, specifically target that cannon. That cannon's lighting us up. You need to get rid of that guy. Especially if it's a vessel that doesn't have many armaments or they're
yeah.
not very well protected. And then you start getting targeted. You have to hit the deck. You have to, start moving. You can't just sit in one emplacement for a long time. If you think modern artillery,
But
um,
wait. Is a player a gunner or is a player like controlling the gunners? You know what I mean?
Oh, I see what you mean. I see what you're saying. Gotcha. Yeah. Uh, I mean, in the event that you've got a specific character that is a gunner, and that
Yeah.
at least in that moment, what they're doing is they're firing and loading a cannon, or an arbalest, or whatever, some piece of naval
Yeah.
artillery.
I think like
Um,
if you look at Coriolis, which is a space game, they have
mm,
like you have role, and it's said
mm,
in the game that every PCs is gonna have one role. One is
mm,
gonna be the captain, one is gonna be the nav guy, one is gonna be the one is gonna be the gunner, one is gonna be the engineer, whatever. I forgot all the roles. But
mm,
for each role, you have a few maneuver that you can
mm,
do. So you have like maybe 2 or 3 options every round that you can try to do. You're gonna get the captain is gonna try to give order, and each option is gonna like, or maybe the engineer. You can have like those energy point that you have to split between the different posts in the ship, and maybe you can try to overload your engine to get more
mm.
energy point for this round, or maybe you can try to maybe you want to do a shutdown, maybe. Uh, so there's different things like that that you can do, but oftentimes you're going to be sitting at your post and
Mm.
it can become repetitive. That's
Yeah.
always something that I kind of
Yeah,
drew me off from those kind of game.
and I think in like the best, depictions in fiction of naval combat, when do they get interesting for the whole crew? Because yeah, normally some of the jobs are just sort of fire and forget, where it's like, yep, what do I do? I stare at the radar. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I'm the radar technician, and it's like, well, that's boring, but now the ship's in a sticky position. The captain calls, prepare to be boarded. Then it's like, okay, I don't need you on a radar anymore. I need you, I
Hmm.
need you to get out there and get fighting. But if you're not going to do boarding, I mean, you can think of things like sometimes they would, maybe the cannon guy. it's kind of sketchy. Doesn't know if he has time to get that consistent fire out there. Just wants to get the most volume as possible, and he calls out, don't bother cleaning the spent powder out. Just fire as quickly as you can. Maybe you risk a magazine detonation, or maybe you see the magazine, bits of your ship have started to catch fire, and you have to make that call of like, do you think your magazine's gonna detonate and you should abandon ship, or do you just keep firing and try to get rid of that ship, because they might, even if you
Yeah.
abandon, who knows what they're gonna do with you? You might drown anyways.
Do you want to go
Um,
so into the weed as to like oh, do you fire all your gun at once because that's gonna rock your ship, or do you
mm,
wanna but now
mm,
you get, because that's something, like that when it
mm,
comes to sailing, especially, like I
mm,
used to be a sailor, and
mm,
like for fun, that's a hobby I had. I like to
mm.
sail, but so it's hard for me then to get like all into the wind, like with the
Uh-huh.
wind, and oh, how
The,
close this ship can get to the wind, and
uh-huh.
how fast can it go, and how close can it get to the shore,
Yeah, I'm pretty into cars too, so I'm the same way with cars and things.
so maybe that's an area as
Uh,
well of risk management, because I think that's, what do you need? It's choices,
mm,
it's resource management and risk management. Like,
mhm,
I think those are the three elements that
mhm,
makes a situation interesting. Well, I guess like risk management are part of choices,
mm, mm,
but those are interesting choice you can make,
mhm.
and some, when especially when you don't know. Resource management is the one that, if you take like 5 men from this post and send them to that post, there's going to be 5 men there. And
Yeah, yeah,
risk management is the risk management is like the decision they have to make,
yeah,
where you don't know the outcome yet.
mm,
And I think those
yeah,
are.
and
Mm,
and a lot of that can be part of your customization, is a lot of that risk management beforehand too. Do you keep a really full magazine on your ship that you'll have more ammo, but that ammo is going to be more
yeah.
likely to get hit and set off? Do you keep it close together so you can reload quickly, or do you keep your powder on one side and your shot on the other?
Mm.
Something like that.
one
Um,
one one that can be part of it as well, if it takes a long time to reload the gun. And then
mm,
if you want to do that, if you want to go this route, I would say maybe you don't want to do the round per round, because oftentimes, like,
mm,
you're gonna have players saying, "Oh, I'll just wait," but
yeah.
maybe there's, you want to take a shot from afar that maybe won't, like, is less likely to hit. Do you want to wait until you're closer, because you won't be able to do both?
Mhm, mhm.
You're gonna have a shot now, and then you can shoot, and we can move away, or we can try to get closer and you shoot.
Yeah,
But
and then having like the captain controlling sort of maneuvering and positioning things. Maybe you're the ones initiating the fight, and you have the you can either keep on the move and just be very obvious, or you can sit still behind a low shoal or something and try to hide, but now you're still in the water, and
yeah,
that's a really sketchy thing to be. But you might get the jump on them. And then,
yeah,
there's for the gunners, there could be, the ammo choices, with chain shot, grape shot, solid
yeah.
shot,
I don't. I don't
all
know
of
if,
that
like,
sort of
I
stuff.
think that can be part of the choice. I don't think it's. I'm not sure if it's enough though to make it interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just saying. In addition, I would if you're just doing the equivalent of like hitting 1 2 3 4 on the
Yeah.
keyboard, that's that's
And
probably not enough. But
how do you make it so that not only the captain got agency? You know what I mean? How do you make it that
mhm, mhm.
everybody feel like, that, oh, we're just doing what this guy's saying? You know what I mean?
Uh,
That's always a
yeah.
big problem that I find in those kind of like situation where everybody's on the same vehicle.
Mm.
You gotta get a chain of command.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess it's as long as the ship's big enough, the captain sort of pointing, deciding where the ship is, but where you are on the ship is,
Yeah.
sort of up to you, right? And
Yeah,
obviously,
I was mentioning this before you came in. Like, I think having multiple posts, and like maybe the PC are not linked specifically to one post,
mhm, mhm.
and if they're gonna do something else, they can contribute more,
Mm.
and then there's gonna be an NPC, some of the crew member that's gonna do like a mediocre job at it.
M-
But like
maybe what
so
maybe what you do is you to keep try to ensure that the ship never has more than a skeleton crew,
yeah, that's
and
also
that
something I mentioned before, like having more tasks to do, more emergency to solve than you have
yeah.
PCs. So
Yeah,
it's always
like,
like it's
you know,
always a
maybe your larder is,
yeah.
it's like, sorry, we've got 12 guns and only 11 crewmen. You get on the 12th gun, get to shooting, get the um mm,
Or and when things start to break down, oh now we
mm,
have to send some water out or like
yeah,
fix the hole or
you get the bilge
how do
pumps
you
fixed, or
exactly
you know
how do we solve those issues?
E even if you're not losing someone, people get tired, those old manual bilge pumps, you can only have if you've been fighting for a way longer time than you've expected,
Yeah.
and you've got a guy just pulling on that rope forever, you might go, "Hey, that ship's looking pretty fucked up. I don't think we need to keep, firing as much as we are at him. Some of you go down there and help him." So I think it's important. I think the too long didn't watch is it's important to have movement on the ship, right?
Yeah.
You need to have reasons to move from one position to the
One
other, whether
position
that
to
be
the other.
your position is under attack, you're either from range or you're being boarded, or there's something else on the ship that is,
Yeah.
if you don't do that, we're gonna sink, or
Yeah.
something else.
So okay, so we agree with like that we agree on like
Mm,
having the PC move from position to position. I think that'd be a good way to keep it
yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Having emergency that not everything can be solved at once, like an
yeah,
emergency and task and stuff like that. Like emergency in the sense that also like when you got like an opportunity to shoot the ship, that's kind of an emergency as well. Something that needs to be
yeah,
taken care of fast.
yeah.
Uh,
I think that's the nerd term for that is exigency.
Sorry.
The nerd term for that is exigency.
Oh yeah.
There's both a problem and you only have a
Yeah.
certain amount of time to fix it.
Yeah. Whoops. Sorry for that.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
beast outside. Pose dilemma to each player in their role. Aspar is failing on you. Sick yeah, exactly. Like those are the kind of thing that.
Mm,
And so now that we determined that,
mm.
are we going back also like not as much as round to round on a time basis, but more like events to events?
Yeah, I think so. I
So
think I think it's
we
sort of
just
this.
like
Yeah.
fast forward to the next big thing happening. Like
Mm,
oh,
mm.
you managed to get in position, so now you can take your shot. Or
Yeah, but I think it's that things are happening a little quicker, when it's ship versus ship combat, because with two cars, the faster car gets away from the other one pretty quick. With
yeah.
two ships, you can it's going to take you, if you're in range of their guns, you're going to get shot at for a little while before you get out of the way of them,
Mm-hmm.
putting fires out, putting, giving return fire, what
Yeah.
have you.
And I was mentioning before also that like I was playing with the idea of like maybe having that because like ship turns slowly and stuff like that, like having like kind of like
Mhm.
almost
Yeah,
like you want to turn the ship, you're gonna make your roll, or the crew is
yeah,
gonna make the roll, stuff like
mm,
that. Is it gonna take one turn, two turns, three turns to have your ship
yeah,
turn? And maybe like having the environment play a big part.
mhm,
Having like those rock. You go
yeah,
close to the coast. You try to have the other ship follow you, and maybe they're gonna beach. And
yeah,
I think this is, and that's also in the same kind of car. But I think with ship you can have like this delay, and that come back to the risk management as well. You know what I mean? Like, do you want to turn? You see something coming. Do you want to turn right away, or do you want to move closer and try to turn at the last minute?
mhm,
But maybe you waited too long. Maybe you won't, and
yeah,
then you have like ship maneuverability and stuff like that.
mm.
Um,
You might just
yeah,
capsize, if you try to
yeah,
turn too quickly.
yeah, yeah. Rex still say
Going into
I would
waves
say even
too.
if only one of the PC were the captain, the major choice will ultimately be a group decision by all the player, but it also depend on the system and how strict it is.
Mm,
Yeah, that's that depends on how strict you want the chain of command stuff like that. You could have like you know like the captain can say like, oh, the gunner do that, but like, is the PC's gonna go be part of the, like, if they are freedom in the position that they occupy, maybe like the PC or not, like, well, I'm not gonna help the gunner this time. I'm gonna let the NPC gun. It's not gonna be great, but I got something else I need to do.
Mm.
Hmm.
Um. Oh,
Anything
what was
else
I going to say?
on a naval combat, or should we move to space, which a lot of it
Let's move to
is gonna
space
apply?
because it's got a lot of similar stuff. So.
Yeah, it's a lot of similar stuff, so a lot of it is gonna
Mm.
apply as well. I love those
Mm-hmm.
emergency. Now instead of like
Yep.
taking water, you
Yep.
lose air.
Losing it.
You
Yep.
take in vacuum.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. However
And
you want to look at it.
yeah, the vacuum leak inside the ship.
Mm.
And but now also you have technology,
Mm-hmm.
and the range can be much bigger, and maybe there is less environment to deal with. So now, does that add something? And there's also a third dimension. Is the third dimension worth dealing with?
I don't think so. I think a maneuver is a maneuver, and I think that's I I think the less you deal with there, the more room it gives your players to vary up their descriptions. So, I'm gonna suddenly rise or lower to, evade this rather than having to think about,
Mm-hmm.
specific things. Um, you could, I guess, get into it with like, maybe your ship specifically has just a bunch of guns on the top side and they try to get under people. But maybe that's just something you handle through role play. And you don't need to have it super specific. Um, yeah, with technology, I think it changes things quite a bit because now if you've got either just more problems than your repair and engineering team can handle, or if your engineering ends up dead, uh, is your average person going to be able to fix the problems on a spacefaring vessel? Because now it's a little more complicated than pull a rope and hammer a board into place.
And
So
if you get like one shot, maybe it is like three or four subsystem that come down, and like
mm,
which one you fix first, and then there's a choice there.
yeah,
But there's
yeah,
also like other like technology also bring other thing like torpedo that are
yeah,
gonna follow a ship.
yeah.
How do you deal with
Life
those?
support systems.
Life support system, cloaking
Mm,
device,
mm,
radar,
mm,
detection, stuff like that.
yeah, mm,
Uh, how do you make those interesting and meaningful?
mm. I I so I haven't run anything like this, but I would say if you were going to, I mean, I would definitely be doing my homework and looking at how those sort of space naval combats are represented in fiction, and usually they're represented pretty closely to modern naval combat,
Yeah.
because the technology gets pretty similar, and so you'll have things like yeah, you can run all of this technology, but if you're, pinging a radar all the time, you're sending something out there. So the other guy pinging his radar, you're going to see each other at the same time. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really only big ships that are doing that. The little ships, you might want to be, go in blind and just go, maybe you've got a guy with really good eyesight and he just gets visual confirmation on stuff. Um, uh, One of the unavoidable, one of the really unique things about Gundam, because Tamino wanted to bring everything close because he thought, well, it would be really dumb to have naval combat, or space combat where it's just a bunch of ships on one side and then we have to cut to a different scene because they're so far away because
Yeah.
there's no obstacles in between them because they're in the vacuum of space.
But
uh
if you were to do like fight like in the space, that would be
you know
oftentimes like that. It'd be likely how it's gonna happen, especially if you have like laser and shit like that,
yeah,
very
exactly, and
very long
that's
range.
yeah, and there's no you don't have to worry about as much about inverse square law because you don't have
Yeah.
an atmosphere to pass through. So your
Hmm.
laser's just going to go on forever. Bullets don't have to worry about gravity, so they'll just go until they eventually lose their ballistic energy. So what he did to fix that is he
And
put out
ballistic energy is gonna last a long
hmm,
time because there is no air
there's no
resistance
air
as well.
resistance. Yeah.
There's nothing to
So
there's no gravity, there's no air resistance. Like so the bullet's gonna go
yeah.
forever.
So what he did to fix that, to not just have, you have a really boring scene of they go pew 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 pew, the other guys go pew 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 pew. Sometimes they miss and sometimes they hit. Instead, what he did is he went, okay, the engines that they're using now, these nuclear fusion reactors, they put off a new kind of particle that just totally disrupts radar. So you have to get visual confirmation. So you have to get close. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like this interesting mix of modern naval combat with old naval combat where everything is very close because the guns have a short range, but instead of the guns have a short range, you just need visual confirmation on things. So that might be something to think about. Maybe how some parts of the technology being
Yeah.
advanced hinders other parts of the technology.
You
Um,
could also like put on your ship something like the shield, like you know, like in Dune they have like personal
mm-hmm,
shield that everything coming
mm-hmm,
fast is stopped. You could put that on
yeah,
your ship, so now you have like, because
mm-hmm,
that's another thing that you can add to the spaceship combat is, well, or like if you had like a, if you would do like a airship carrier, you know,
mm-hmm,
but because you could have like this dogfight in space as well, like the
mm-hmm,
X5, the X wing, the TIE fighter and stuff like that. They're docked on the spaceship. Maybe
mm-hmm,
that's the thing that the PC want to do as well. And
mm-hmm,
now if you want to do because now you don't have to have the PC all at the same post. Everyone can be in their one fighter,
mm-hmm.
and the guy ends up looking at a video screen to binocular.
And that's also how Gundam does it because
Yeah,
they're like,
yeah,
it would be fucking boring for our character, and they say that in as their characters. The main antagonist gets made the captain of a ship. He gets promoted from the guy piloting one of the mechs, and he goes, God, why the hell would I want to do that? That's not what I do. Yeah, I pilot the mechs. You captain my ship. You're getting promoted immediately, and I'm gonna keep going out there. um, so
mm,
that's a way to keep that going. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. And then also, with that sort of Dune thing, I think lots of different games and fiction will represent, the type of armor or shielding that's going to be good against a laser or direct energy weapon isn't what's going to be good against ballistics.
yeah,
And so when you're customizing your ship, do you have to make that choice? Do you have both and it's really heavy and slow and, is going to pop up on a radar instantly? Do you have it, fast, but you had to pick one of the two?
yeah. Because like there's like a, if you want to have your setting make sense, you have like this
Mm,
those questions to answer in some way.
mhm,
I think like,
mhm,
because otherwise, yeah, it'd be like just ship like firing from very far away
mhm,
without
mhm.
even ever seeing each other. But
Yeah.
if you want to do that, because now there's firing from very far away, maybe the ship are very fast. So do you have to, you would kind of have to plan. You don't want to shoot where the ship is. You want to shoot where the ship will be.
Mhm.
So maybe now we're
Yeah.
back again with this idea of like, well, maybe you need to maybe you need to kind of like plan a few rounds in advance and secretly, and then you make a plan, and maybe it kind of become like this puzzle that the player has to solve, like try to guess what
Mm.
the other gonna kind of do.
Mm. Yeah.
But then again, I don't know in that situation where every player, what every character does,
Yeah,
that is not
because
something
and I
boring.
mean, even on the micro level, you're
Mm,
having to lead shots on, moving planes and stuff like that. So I think it's kind of a slow consideration, right? Because and it has to do too. If your weapons can fire super quickly, you don't need to worry that much about leading. You just sort of shotgun it and, those
yep.
sorts of fight. If they can fire really long range and there's no environment to consider, then it just kind of becomes a random crapshoot. Well, they can move in 8 different directions. They're probably going to keep going in the same direction they're going, and then they both fire broadside, and then it's a total Pyrrhic victory for one of them. But yeah, I agree with what Arnman says here. I would
Yep.
find a way to get every player other than the captain into a fighter ship to participate in the combat. Yeah, fighter
Yep.
ship or a mech or
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
what
exactly.
have
Like
you.
in a mobile
Um,
suit.
mobile
That's
suits,
what you.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
a
what you want
mobile
to
armor.
see.
Uh, yeah, and with it, you can have then you can have the captain being the one controlling logistics. They can be
Yep.
they're gonna have to be in a specific position, ready to refuel fighters when they're coming back if it's a long fight, ready to rearm fighters, repair. How big
But
is your bay?
maybe if you have like some player go out in ships,
Mm,
Maybe the captain can stay on the main
yeah,
ship. Maybe a gunner. Maybe like
yeah.
an
A
engineer.
repair,
Depending on
yeah,
the
a
player.
repair, yeah.
Like it should be an option.
Yep,
But like maybe there's more. Maybe there is more
yeah.
than one role to fill on the main ship.
Yeah.
But if there's
Yeah,
not
and
role for everybody, like send them like into the dogfight,
like
into
maybe a lot of people's,
the fighter.
planes or their mechs get damaged, they come back, but your repair bay has only got room for two, and so the repair the whoever's on engineering has to go, well,
Mm.
sorry, you got to stay out there because I'm picking you two come in, we'll try to get you done as fast as possible, but everybody else go. Or maybe you share your repair bay with your rearming and refueling bays, and so now you've got to make even more hard choices. With this guy's running out of fuel and ammo, this guy's got a hole in him. We can only fix two people at a time. What are we doing here? Oh, I lost him. So those sorts of choices can be made on the crew as well. And then of course the other same stuff where somebody gets injured, they go over to start gunning. um Anti-aircraft, of course, because there are your 6 degrees of freedom. uh there might be a lot more movement, because now instead of just getting one into the ship to the other, one into the ship to the other, if there's something attacking you from below and you're on the top side of the ship, you might have to go a long ways to get over to that machine gun turret or whatever it happens to be.
Hmm. Yeah, and again, also like the idea of boarding can be,
Mm, yep.
especially if you have people like going to fighter. Maybe the fighter is just like,
Mm,
well, you break down the defense, we fucking land on
mm,
the ship, then we dig a hole. Maybe one of the
yep.
fighters is specialized for that, and we just
Mm.
try to give him to the place.
Or you're trying to capture something, maybe they've got
Yep.
because the tech level's so high, you get somebody's got a flagship or some
Yeah,
crazy
those
technology
ships
on
are super
something.
expensive as well,
Yeah,
so
you
maybe
you
you just
don't
don't
want
want
to
to blow
just,
them up.
maybe you could just light it up with
Hmm.
your lasers at 100 miles away, but you don't want to do that. You
Yeah,
would
this is
rather
this is
capture it.
also a reason to come close. Yeah.
And then there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong. You have an extra vehicular activity, while you're being shot at left and right, and you
And
can't
that's the
hear
thing.
anything. You
Maybe
can't
maybe
hear.
maybe
Yeah.
maybe you want
Mm,
to keep your own main big ship
mm,
away. So that's the reason that we go into the fighter in the little ship, so we can go
yeah.
get close to their ship,
Mm,
board it.
mm,
I think that could be like and then
yeah.
once you're inside the ship, you can go back with the normal role playing rules, I guess.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that could be like, I think maybe that's the interesting way to do it. Because a big problem when we come to those like naval or spaceship battle is there's a difference between like the player knowledge and the character knowledge in a way, because the character would be in that world, the character would know, but like the players are not like are not from that world,
Yeah.
or are not like sailor and like are not like spaceman, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then like what do you do like with the, like I'm sure like somebody that was like an maybe somebody that work in a submarine probably have like a better idea of like what to do as
Mm,
a radar guy, like different thing you can try and stuff like that, like, and or a gunner or stuff like, or a captain, maybe they will have like a better idea of that. But most people are not that, so we just there like, well, what do I think what the radar guy does? I think you just like stare at the radar and say like, oh, I see a beep there.
yeah.
They probably just don't do that. They probably have different thing they
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
do, like try to like vary the signal, but I don't
Mm,
know that. So how
yeah.
could I role play that? I think that's a big issue that we have.
I think it would be something, you would have to give good examples, if not strict rules, give good examples in
Well,
your
I think that's why
system.
like the idea of like Coriolis giving like specific
Uh,
maneuver
yeah,
is
yeah.
not a bad idea. It's like, oh, you're
Yeah.
in that role, you
Like,
can do those things. You pick one and you
maybe
drop.
the comms officer, the radar officer, is he's got the decision where it's like, we know, we suspect there's something here. We
Yeah,
can't see it. I could boost gain on the
yeah.
radar.
Or
Maybe
you can,
maybe we get a false positive and we
yeah,
freak out and shoot at this rock, and
like
now
you
we're
can
lit
probably
up
like
and
do
everybody
your
sees us.
you can do like your normal radar. You can
Mm,
try to do like a more active
mm,
radar that is gonna make you more
mm.
detectable, but you're gonna
Yeah.
detect more as well. You can try
Mm,
to scramble other people's radar. You can try,
yep.
like try to be more silent, and then you become blind as well.
Yeah.
So maybe there's those kind of option.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it can last and be interesting, especially once
Mm,
combat is engaged, and like especially if you
yeah.
have visual and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And what do you do? You just like give like a bonus to the gunner, and then like does it become like just like a game of oh, the
Like,
captain succeeded his
yeah.
role, so
Well, I
the radar
guess, you
guy got
know,
a bonus, so the radar
mm,
guy succeeded his role, so the gunner got a bonus, and does it just
maybe
become like
maybe
a
you have
game?
the radar guy also in control of your some of your defenses, because the radar, once you're already in combat, you're not looking for the ship, you're looking for missiles, you're looking for
Yeah,
slower moving projectiles and that. And so maybe that's that now it's like, okay, now you've got a bunch of little blips coming up over here, you move your defenses, if you've got like a in Star Trek, they have the shield that can like move
yeah.
from one side of the ship to the other. You can move it over there, but maybe you failed your radar. You didn't fiddle with it right enough. You failed your roll, and you saw a little group of missiles over here, but that was masking a really big attack that they're moving over there. I would say that's a thing where you'd want a group that's done their homework, right? I don't think you would want to play that kind of thing with players that
Yeah, passive
haven't thought
player.
about it. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Well, with passive players or with players, that aren't really into the idea, right?
Yeah, you definitely need like some players buy-in. Like
Mm-hmm,
players
mm-hmm.
need to want to do this kind of game where you're gonna do the ship
Yeah,
combat.
because I think
Uh,
I think most people can get into the idea of, what are you? You're a guy with a sword and you go beat stuff up, and that's
mm,
that's it. You don't need I don't need you to read some historical treatises to play a fighter in D&D or whatever.
mhm.
Just play a person, and that's what you do. You're skilled at hitting people with the sword, but when it yeah, when it comes down to some very specialized roles like that, like we have on, because the more complicated technology gets, the more specialized people's roles get. So yeah, that's a tricky one.
So, what do you think would be like if we try to kind of condense what we discussed there about like a spaceship battle? What do you think would be like the good advice? Finding a reason to get the people close
Hmm.
or into dogfight?
Yeah.
I think that'd be like a.
Mm.
Do we keep it like a? Now it's a tricky one because do we keep it like
Mm.
again event driven, or do we go back to round? And what if there's player like into dogfight? Is it worth it now getting more into round? Do we treat dogfight like separate duel? You're engaged with the other ship. We resolve that. Space is vast enough so it doesn't affect this other like duel there. How would you deal with that?
Yeah, I would say we keep it. I think it depends on two things. How lethal is it? Is this a thing where you get grazed and your vessel decompresses and you're dead pretty much instantly? Then we can keep it, very event based. Bang, you shoot at this guy in the dogfight, either you hit him or you miss him and he's dead. Move on. But if it's
Yeah,
hit point based, if the ships are a little more durable, then yeah, I would say we need to go round by round, because it's going to be a uh, a
because
protracted engagement.
if you did a dogfight, you kind of come back closer to the
Mm-hmm,
melee or to
mm-hmm.
the end to
Yeah,
end in a way, except
yeah,
that there's more motion, but
yeah.
because you're in the void of space, the motion like it's just like relative motion, like
Mm.
from one ship to the other. You don't have to.
And then the same thing with long range. I think it depends on, again, how durable are the larger, your like flagships, versus also how fast are the weapons, right?
Mhm.
Because how fast are the weapons, how fast are the ships, right? Because if the weapons can fire really really quickly, if you don't have like a charge up time on your
Yeah.
lasers or railguns or whatever, and they can just fire as quickly as they want, I think that's also going to be like a
And
more
it's also
round
like,
after round thing, because
do you have some energy to manage? Do you have
yeah,
to lower your
yeah,
shield fire, or
yeah, yeah. And then
can you
we're
keep the shield at 50% and fire
yeah,
50%? Do you
yeah.
do you
And
want to
then
go
when you're
all in?
constant when you're constantly trading those shots back and forth that quickly, stuff's breaking. You've got to go.
Mhm.
Some people are managing, energy as a resource. Other people are managing people as a resource. We've got to go
Yeah.
send people to fix, engineering. We've got to go send people to fix, we've got life support. But if life support goes down, everybody here is dead in, a few minutes. But if we stop shooting at them, then we get boarded with no life support, and then we're dead in a few minutes. So
Mm.
those sorts of
And
decisions.
do you think like we should always like try to bring the fight back? Like, oh, there's an asteroid there, or there's a moon around, and just like trying to get cover, you know?
I think in the like long term, those can be like more of the like grand strategy stuff. Like, oh, we're gonna, maybe we have, we're gonna slingshot around this moon and pick up a lot of speed. But
But just
in
using
the
them as cover.
yeah, yeah, or but maybe if you have like a trash belt or something, because asteroid
Yeah,
belts don't that they aren't real, that they're not close together at all. So it's
yeah.
the way
Well,
they're
they're
if
they're
that's
not
what
close
you want to
together,
do, a
but
boat.
if you're shooting each other from like
Yeah, yeah.
hundreds of kilometer away,
Yeah. I mean, then it
they,
then it goes back to, the naval combat thing where,
hmm
it's you could be sitting still behind there. Maybe you accelerate incredibly quickly in the spaceships though, and you're just, hopping
yeah,
from rock to rock.
yeah,
Maybe you station, so you've got mechs, maybe you place some mechs on one of these rocks, and they're really hard to spot, and they're not going to pop up on radar because they're stuck to the rock. And so they, somebody tries to take cover behind it and they jump off and start attacking it. So there's opportunities for looking there.
because I
um
think I think like
mm,
using environment always make like
mm,
always using environment always make it more interesting in combat, like, and that's also true
that's
for
true.
like a melee combat.
You could um
Yeah, I think that's
yeah,
a good point there by Justin.
yeah,
Yeah, like,
yeah,
like
distance can be relative for sure. Yeah.
yeah,
um Arman says, I guess I would think space battles would be very deadly very quick. I would have defenses,
hmm
shields, or ECM that wear down, and then a hit's mostly fatal. Yeah, so
yeah,
you've, yeah.
and especially if you do the dogfight too,
Mm,
it doesn't need to be fatal. Maybe you just
mm,
lose your ship and then you're floating into
yeah.
space, and then it's
Mm,
something else for somebody to do.
yeah.
Go try
Yeah.
to rescue you or
Hmm.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then,
So
um, oh, dang it. Oh, using populated things as if you've got like a mining asteroid or
yeah,
something, ships can sort of take hostage in that way, in a way that naval ships can't really do. Um, you can or you fly into uh contested airspace to try and get the fight broken. Maybe you're on the losing side of a fight and you're just like, we'll just fly it into a neutral airspace and they'll shoot these guys down if they keep fighting us. And then you have that really tense, like, you're in a zone where neither of you can fight, but the moment one of you takes off, that they're gonna get blasted. Um oh, see you, Justin.
have a good night, Justin. Thank you for dropping by.
Mm,
Uh, I think we should be able to wrap it up, but I just want to. I just
yeah.
like to. I just like to kind of summarize what we figure out with
Mm,
like spaceship battle, because I think we have some good idea there.
mm,
I still have some question about, like, yeah, do we go round for round? Do we go event to event? Like when we, and does it matter if you go to a dogfight or not? I think if you go to dogfight, maybe it's time to go back to round for round. But
mhm, mhm,
what if we have people still in the main ship? I guess then maybe the role also round to round become more relevant because they want to
mm.
support the fighter. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I've never run anything like that, so I'm trying to
because
think of a
for
you
all
know.
the other one, we kind of like concluded, yeah, go from event to event, don't play
Yeah,
every
yeah.
round. That's you would usually like be the right, I think that would usually be the right advice. But now we got something that is much faster,
Mhm.
much more lethal.
Yeah.
So I
It
don't
might
know,
be time to zoom in and
it might be
go,
time to zoom in and to go like,
go that
yeah,
granular.
Yeah.
Mm, mhm. But I think that might be a play it by ear sort of thing. Maybe maybe the guns on the ship, have a really long charge time, or they fly behind, a whole, a really big asteroid, and it's going to take them, a minute or so to get to the other side of it. And so it's like, okay, you've got a little bit of time to fix up your repairs, to recharge yourself or
Mm.
whatever. And maybe there you go, event by event. But if it's just open space and it's two ships, broadsiding each other or whatever happens to be the case
Yeah. Now,
in the
if it's just like
future.
two ship
Yeah,
broadsiding each other, like
yeah.
I would say,
Mm,
like keep it event to event. I'm thinking
mm.
once you go into
Oh, really?
dogfight,
Mm.
when you have like little ship invite, like fighter ship involved.
Yeah, yeah. I mean both though. You've got the
Hmm.
main ships broadsiding each other, and then you've got the little dogfights
Yeah.
popping up here and there. And you've got both. Everybody in the dog fighters. They take their turn. The captain of the main ship. He takes his turn. Delegating roles inside the mothership or what have you,
Mm.
and then you just go down initiative order if you're using initiative or.
Because the other thing that we kind of like concluded on spaceship is like
Mm,
what would be good practice for a GM.
mm,
Get the people close, give them a
yeah.
reason to board.
Mm,
Uh, Dogfight, I think, is a good idea because you
mm,
keep the people involved. Doesn't need to be everyone in the little fighter jet. I
mm.
think like some people can have some role on the ship, but then some people just do the dogfight outside. Um what else? Using environment, I think, is would be a good.
Mm.
I mean, like just don't do your space battle in the void of space. Like
Yeah, yeah.
maybe
Unless your players do something stupid and get
yeah.
caught out, and they
But
and
also,
they
like,
decide,
why would you be in the void of space? Usually, you're gonna be like, you're gonna do this faster than light travel when it's the void of space, and then you're gonna be around something some point of interest. Some
may,
usually that's what can happen.
maybe your world, like Gundam doesn't have FTL travel though, so there is a lot of that flying through the void of space, and maybe you get unlucky and there was a trap set for you in, maybe the big ships that have, a ton of guns with really good firing range and great optics or whatever, maybe they are just sitting there. They're sitting in the easiest path, and it's up to it's up to maybe your information gathering people to figure out the enemy's plans so that they
Hmm.
can take the routes that, because a lot of it on like the grand strategy side of things is planning what route you're going to take. Do we take the fastest, easiest route that might be trapped? Or do we take this long roundabout path that's probably going to be pretty safe, but it's going to take us a while to get there? Is our fuel going to last? Are our food stores going to last? Are we going to get to whatever our objective is in time?
Yeah, it's the whole like 12 parsec, the Kessel Run in 12 parsec. Uh, is there anything you want to add on the spaceship battle?
Not that I can think of. I think that one's a very that's a tricky one. I'd be interested.
That's a
I
tricky
want
one
to.
because like there's kind
Uh,
of like this two level there. Eh?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I want to run it at some point. I guess another way, if you're doing Mech Warrior, you could do it the way that the
Mm.
main the spacefaring ships don't really have they don't go into the combat there a lot of times. They just exist to go onto the planet and drop a bunch of mechs on it and then fly away. So
Mhm.
um that's another
Yeah.
way to bring it close. Maybe
But because I
yeah.
think that's the difference. Once you're in dogfight, when if you're in a mech, if you're in
Mm,
stuff like that, now you back to individual combat where like every
yeah. Mhm,
character
yeah.
has this freedom of movement and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
maybe that's the point when you go back to round fight.
Mhm. Mhm.
And once everybody's on the same ship and kind of like a tight
Yeah.
idea, then you go to the event fight where you like, okay, we're gonna move until the next thing happen, and then we're gonna resolve this next thing, and then like
Mhm.
how do you address this next thing, and then move to the
Mm,
other one. And there's one thing we didn't talk about if we done with ship combat,
yeah.
but I think that's gonna be fast. Horses,
Yeah.
completely at the other end of technology. The thing that's interesting about horse is they can have a mind on their own. Do we want to deal with that, or do we just say, you know what, the horse is gonna do what you tell him to do? You don't have to worry about like, oh, is he gonna obey my order, or you just say, oh, he's trained, he's gonna do what you want to do. does the horse just become like an extension of the character? Just the character can move faster, can jump further,
I
and
think
nothing
it depends.
about it.
I think if the fantasy is at a like higher level, then yeah, just sort of having it as like a having it as an extension, you're really good at riding a horse. If you have like the paladins in Dungeons and Dragons that have their bonded mount, they are like literally giving them telepathic commands. They just do exactly what they want, and you can run it like that, and that's just fine. When you get to the lower fantasy, though, I I would personally want that. Horses are skittish animals,
Yeah.
and that gives your characters a reason to seek out good horse training,
Hmm.
good horses, so that they're not having that. There's a really funny. I can't remember the battle, but there's an account where these two generals write to each other. They're like, okay, we are only going to use male horses from now on because this battle just totally got called off because all of the male horses on one side and all the female horses on one side. And these knights are like, they can't fight each other because their horses are just going off while they're riding them, which I'm sure would have been a sight to see.
Yeah. That's an interesting one. Do you want to include that in your RPG? I don't know.
Yeah.
If you wanna throw a curveball at your player, like yeah,
Yeah,
maybe that's one like they're gonna remember.
yeah, yeah.
Yep. In Winter
Um,
Down, if I can plug my own
you can
from
absolutely. Yeah.
like I'm going the route of you need to do like a riding check when you want a
Mm,
horse when you bring a horse in combat, and then you have like a riding point pools that you can use to
mm,
have your horse do stuff. And at some point, like
mm,
so, once in a while, you have to kind of re-rein in your horse and
mm. This
kind of
is,
retake control of him. Mhm.
yeah, speaking of Tombstone,
Yeah,
watched recently, this is especially important in the West. Is your horse trained around guns? Because if a horse
yeah,
isn't used to guns, and you're riding your horse, everything's going okay. You pull your pistol out and shoot, and it starts freaking out immediately because that's the first
yeah.
time it's heard anything that loud.
But
That's
even in medieval time, if you want to roll
uh,
like
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
the battle of
Mm,
1066 when
mm,
when Guillaume the Conqueror like
mm,
came down, you would see that on the biotapisserie. Like they would run
mm,
at the horse at shield wall
mm,
and then like throw
yep.
javelin basically. But like having your horse charge at something is not
Mm,
natural for a horse as well.
mhm,
So you have to have
mm.
him trained for that.
Yeah. Then the horse gets injured. Is it going to start? Is a really well trained horse going to start freaking out once they've been
Yeah,
injured? Um, you know, uh, do you have a horse that's well enough trained that you don't even need reins? You can guide it with the knees. Because if you can guide a horse with your knees, all of a sudden, your
yeah,
choices of armaments are opened up a lot.
yeah. With the bow.
Mhm.
Yeah, but like how far do you want to go with that? Like I think personally, I think you can have like well that's I see of course that's what I did, so of course I think you can do that. I think you can have like some like once in a while you would like that's what I try to the
Mhm.
balance I try
Mhm.
to fix. Once in a while you want to kind of like reassess dominance over your
Mhm.
horse, if you can
Yeah.
say it like that. You say okay, now we're gonna do my thing, and then like
Yeah.
good for a few rounds, and just once in a while you kind of like to take a seat back and
Mm,
really take control of your horse. And the more you do him do difficult stuff, the faster you have to do it.
mhm.
But other than that, I think it's again we're individual combat.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
other than that, I think like yeah, it's just like instead of using your
Yeah.
running
Yeah.
speed, using the running speed of the horse.
Mm, yeah.
If we do a chase with a wagon where all the PCs on the wagon and they're being pursued by people on horses, then maybe I would go back to the car chase.
Mm.
Sorry for the dog.
So
And
he's
and
barking
go.
because wagon chases are fucking stupid. A single horse is always going to be faster than a wagon because the roads sucked.
Yeah, but they're
What?
but in a cinematic matter, they're exciting. We see that oftentimes.
Yeah, yeah. I just personally, like maybe you're in Fantasyville and you have beautiful paved roads everywhere because some wizard has gone by and paved all the roads and you can have those wagon chases. But if we're going a little more grounded, people are complaining about how much the roads suck all the time because
Yeah,
oh, people have organized all these beautiful flagstones for the roads. Well, Greg down the street is like, oh, I'd like to build a house. And is he going to go all the way to the river to get your flag? No, he's just taking them from the road. So, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's why the Coliseum in Rome is in ruin. People just
Yep.
use the stone to build their house.
Yeah.
It didn't fall down with time. It's just like people.
No. There's
Yeah,
a museum in Lyon where they've cut into the basement,
yeah.
and you can
But
see the original foundations are just like tipped over marble columns and stuff.
if we're like in a Western kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And you got like 4 people in a wagon
Mm,
and horse pursuing.
yeah.
Yes, the horse might be faster,
Mm,
but then you have like one guy driving the wagon and 3 guys shooting at the person.
yeah. And the guys
So
shooting are going to be, they have a better platform to shoot off of than the guy trying to shoot one-handed with his,
yeah,
Colt single action. Because he's also trying to cock his pistol one-handed and, get back to
yeah,
firing it.
exactly. So now maybe it become interesting to have like the wagon chase, and we see them a lot in the Western. Those I would say, maybe that's the rule of thumb. If all the player characters are in the same vehicle, go from event to event. If they are like in an individual vehicle, maybe you can go round by round. I think that'll be like the big conclusion from tonight.
Yeah, I think so.
Keep it
I would,
cinematic.
mm,
I would say avoid the like keep it theater of the mind maybe.
yeah, because you're gonna run out of room on a battle
Yeah.
map, or you're gonna have to
Well,
say
if you want to use the battle map, just make like the fastest ship or the slowest ship is stationary and everything move around it. That's the trick. Oh yeah, okay. I should have said that earlier. That's the trick at the end of the stream there. If you want to use the battle map, like keep like use one of the vehicle as the reference point and everything else move in relation to it. But I would say theater of the mind. If you want to get if you will go with the map, the battle map, you can do it, but it's not gonna be as fast. And if we try to do vehicular combat, oftentimes what you try to evoke is this sense of speed.
Yeah.
So you can do it if you want the granularity and stuff like that. That's fine, but it's a trade-off that you're gonna make. If you want the sense of speed, yeah, go event by event. There's this event that happened. We resolve it, and you set up for the next event, and then we move on to the next one and keep it fast. I think that would be my big advice for tonight.
Yep. I would tend to agree with that.
Oh yeah, I know where like Rex still say the Roman chariot. Again, if you're like Roman chariot, oftentimes we're like a driver and either a bowman or a javelin guy, a spear guy, if I'm correct.
Yep.
And in that case, I would use them as like I would use them as an individual kind of chariot. Like people work at teams, but like every vehicle is like the party are split in multiple vehicles. So I would keep them the same thing if you're like on motorcycle and like one guy sitting and shooting and one guy driving. I would keep them like if it's individual combat. What do you think?
Yeah, and if your system has initiative, I would say you don't need them to both roll initiative separately, because then it gets kind of clunky. You use the initiative of the guy driving, and then you just both go at the same time. Or maybe if you wanted to, you could use whichever of their initiatives higher. But I think you do the initiative of the driver. That way, they go as one, group.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the things that we discussed tonight can be transferred to like those, like we didn't do the plane combat, if you want to do like a ace pilot fighter, but a lot of the things that we discussed tonight like can be applied to those other things. Oh, I'm sorry for that, Charlotte. Yeah, I know all about those fucking internet problems. But
I even had one.
What?
I even had one tonight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where I disappeared for a second randomly.
Oh. But yeah, I think we came about with some good conclusion. To be honest, at the start of the stream, especially when you were there, I wasn't too sure where we're going. But I think discussing with you like that, I I think there's some good idea there if you want to run like
Mm,
your those vehicle combat in an interesting way.
mm,
I think those be worth a try.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add, Tyler?
Um, tanks.
Thanks.
I want to add one thing about tanks
Oh, go ahead.
because tanks are an interesting one that I think would be really tricky to run because you don't have
Yeah.
anywhere to move really.
Yeah.
Everyone has a very specific role in a tank. You have gunner, loader, driver,
And also, tanks
commander.
are very
Mm.
susceptible to infantry.
Depending on the period and the tank and etc. Yeah.
Well, like
Um
tanks need to work inside of a unit. That's what I mean.
yeah, you can't really be a lone wolf. You could look at the movie The Beast, which is about a lost T-55 in Afghanistan, and
Hmm.
they're yeah, that's a really cool movie. Um so The Beast or T-34, which is about a T-34 crew. You did get inspiration for that. Not to talk about that too much, but I think that would be a tricky thing to do because you can't move around a lot. If you get close, usually the tank's only got one personal weapon, so one of you, can get out and be shooting people as infantry, and the rest of you are screwed. Um, Maybe if one of you dies in the tank or gets knocked unconscious, you're having to like squeeze past him if you don't have commander override, or maybe it's the commander that's knocked out and you're all looking around waiting for instruction. It's like, oh shit, we don't have any instruction. Who's seeing so that would be something. That's a thing to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like the tanks would fall in a weird place,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't see much. I guess maybe in
No,
40K you would have tanks and stuff like that, but it is such a
40K
different
or
world.
or if you're running like a World War II or like a real mill uh
Yeah.
campaign or what have you. Um,
But
Maybe.
I find those are hard for like a role playing
Mhm.
game because of
Yeah.
because they're so unit based and
Yeah, I
specific.
just yeah, I just thought about it now, and I was like, "Ooh, I
Yeah,
think that would be
it's more like
tricky."
it goes more into the field of like a war game.
Yeah, maybe there the answer is have each player be the commander of a tank crew, and
Mhm.
that's just each of their crew members is a resource they have
But
to manage
then
too.
again, you would have like every player like be on their own. They're not gonna be like
Mhm.
together as a
Mhm.
party. That also come with some problem. That's what I always like
Yeah.
found like those World War kind of game kind of feel like a bit weird
They need to be
or
yeah, I
on
I
the
think
World
they
War
need to
Two.
be small unit tactics and
Yeah.
along the line.
Or if you want to do like
Along
a guerrilla warrior, like resistance and stuff like that,
mm, yeah,
I guess that could be like one way to do it as well.
yeah.
Like covered units. But maybe that's a topic for another day, like doing war
Mhm.
game,
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
war role playing game.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what do we talk about next week?
Oh, what do we talk about next week? uh
There's like there's two topic that I think could be and I don't know if people that watch notice, but we try to do like a more mechanical topic and a more
mm,
like narrative topic. So next week, that today was quite mechanical. Next week, I'd like either low fantasy versus high fantasy because you and
ooh,
I have different view on that, or character death, mortality, resurrection.
mm,
Which one you want to pick?
ooh. Does chat have any opinions on that?
Well, we pretty much lost all our chat now because
Yeah,
we're
we've
way
still
over
got our
time.
man in here though. Well, it's like
Armin wanted us to talk about realm management. That's something we can talk about though, like those high level campaign where you're like
mm,
like domain play people call
mm.
that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah. Mm.
management is. Maybe not the grocery. Maybe not the grocery kind of. Rex still
Let's
say
do
maybe tank
yeah.
combat ability
Mm.
will encourage more heavy social role play between the crew member.
Yeah, because that's the thing in common with like all of
Yeah,
the tank movies is you get to know the crew and
yeah.
everyone's so
A
tight
lot
knit
of
because
those like
they're
platoon,
mm,
like band of brother and stuff like that. A
yeah
lot of it is not
mm,
about the fighting; it's about
yeah
the dynamic inside the crew.
yeah. It's about the
Yeah,
fact that you're stuck in a moving coffin.
yeah.
But yeah, let's do high fantasy versus low fantasy,
All right.
because death lethality, you're going to kind of get into if resurrection is really common because you're very high fantasy. Then so I think we'll knock that one out first, and then yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So next week we're gonna talk about low fantasy, which is that's what I prefer, versus high fantasy, which Tyler tend to fall more toward, I guess.
Yeah, I tend to run it
Yeah.
more. I like both of them. I
Yeah.
it, that's one where, I mean, we'll get into it next week, but I would run low fantasy more if I had players that like low fantasy more. But I
Mm.
do like high fantasy.
All right. Thank you for everybody that joined us tonight. And thank you for everybody that watched on the replay later.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for the slow start and the delay.
I
You know,
yeah,
that's
I
something that
apologize for
happens
that.
sometime. You know, we try
Mm,
to be serious with it. It's you know, it's life. Sometimes it gets in
yeah.
the way. But I hope you still enjoyed the show, and I'm
Mm,
really happy how it went. Like it was a rough
mm,
start. I'm not gonna lie. You know, like because of the way that we plan on doing the show, and
mm,
now like we're still, you know, we're still finding our stride. It's a new show. Me and Tyler working together and stuff like that. So, but I think this one we had a good conversation there going.
mm.
Yeah. So thank you everybody, and thank you Tyler, and take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
See ya.